You're listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Brian White. I'm one half of this morbid equation, and I'm joined by my co-host and brother Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing over there?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm fine, but I have a bit of a mystery on my hands.
I love mysteries.
As you know, I live in a fairly active street, and there's lots of flyers going up and such. And I was walking down the street today, and I pass one sign, or like a flyer, someone stuck on a pole, and it says, "Got lesbians." just question. And there's like a QR, big QR thing, and it's like the got milk thing.
Don't do that. Don't put your phone up on that, because I saw those all over New York City where it was like it would be like, "James, I know you're cheating. Here's the evidence," and it had a QR code, and I was like, I know exactly what that is. That is bait right there.
So I take several steps more, and I come across yet another one, and it's it says lesbian, but it's in the Pepsi font, and it has the Pepsi logo.
Okay.
And then
choice of a generation.
Yeah, I take there's a couple more steps, and there's another one. It's the Nike swoosh, and it just says lesbians. And then like 25 feet more, another one, like a cigarette, like the Marlboro logo, like a pack of cigarettes. It says lesbians, ? And then more QR codes. Now, I don't know what's happening, but I think someone's trying to trap lesbians. And
I know. Listen, if I know one thing, and I know lesbians, it is that they love Pepsi and they love Marlboros.
I don't know what's happening, but I was fully ready to turn the corner and see like a big box held up with a stick, just a rope,
like a gift card to Home Depot under it.
Yeah, that's just a Subaru under there. Apologies, lesbians. Apologies.
Oh, no, I know. I am well on record of being fully in support of lesbian supremacy here.
But that is a thing that actually happened, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was a little bit tempted at first. I'm sure it's like I live in Cambridge. It's like hipster city. It's probably some like meetup group or something.
Yeah. It just, what I saw all over New York, like I would be like, oh my God, that is going to install an app on my phone that then has like me like mining Bitcoin without even knowing it or something like that, or giving somebody access to like every application on my phone.
Yeah, usually Mark Zuckerberg gives you $13 a month for that.
Fucking, that's great, man. That's really great. I'm really would like to know what it is. So I demand that you put your phone on the line and go out there and find out what is going on with lesbians.
I took the photograph. You could put your phone on the line. I'll send you the picture.
I don't know if I want to do that, but I guess the mystery will persist. Listen, listeners, if you're in the Boston area, take a risk, take a chance. Email us, bringmetheaxpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Let me know what's going on with the lesbians.
Please do.
Yeah. Boy. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores. The steady diet of utter garbage for those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. There's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. Just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can also find us on Instagram at BringMeTheAxePod. Dave's over there at That Queer Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, we have another show called 99 Cent Rental, where we cover all manner of video store madness on the weeks that Bring Me the Axe is off. Our latest episode covering Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance, is out now, and we'll be back next week with a look at the unbelievably violent martial arts movie, Story of Ricky. I cannot fucking wait for you to see that movie.
Yeah, never seen it.
It's going to be great. Yep. You can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxpod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the business. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can look us up over there at patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. There's a couple of tiers you can join there. Subscribers at the $5 a month tier can look forward to our bi-weekly X-Files and 90s history pod. Mm-hmm. Do You Think I'm Spooky?
I'm calling it. I mean, 2 more months, it's going to be nothing but 90s history.
It's like going to be like 15 minutes of us talking about the X-Files episode and like an hour of us discussing what was happening on that day in the 90s.
Yeah, like the U.S.-Russian relations in 1993.
The thing is I'm told people actually enjoy that section, so I think we've hit a home run right there. I certainly enjoy talking about it. Yep.
Yeah, because everyone's like, remember the 90s? They were so great. And I'm like, holy shit, they were not. Right. I guess I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Right. All right. There's also our monthly Bring Me the Axe Millennium Edition, which is a bonus episode in which we explore a modern horror movie, as well as my bi-weekly DJ show, Radio Free Haddonfield. Actually, I should mention our latest episode is out there talking Talk to Me. With a couple of friends.
Ash and Elena. Yeah.
Ash and Elena. Good friends in the pod.
And do I do Australian accent? Maybe I do. Am I going to do it again on next month's episode? Probably.
Probably. Yeah, we are.
It's better the second time.
Up to our eyeballs in Australia.
Well, it's about as far as I go.
We also have my bi-weekly DJ radio show, Radio Free Haddonfield. On the weeks when Do You Think I'm Spooky is off, you can expect a surprising mixtape of everything from rock to disco to punk over there. Also, all Patreon subscribers, even the free tier, get access to our Discord server. Paying members, $2 and up, get access to additional channels, voice and video chat, and the watch parties option. This week, we're going to be watching as a group. We're going to get out front of the movie that's coming on Monday. We're all going to watch Story of Ricky together. So join our Patreon and watch Story of Ricky with us.
Yeah, I promise I will say at least one tasteless thing.
You did not disappoint during the last one.
I jumped in just to say a tasteless thing on the last one.
That one tasteless remark. It was great. It was fucking fantastic. Because I wasn't even looking at the chat, and all of a sudden I was like, is that Dave? Yep. Once again, patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. Lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube now. Search us by name, subscribe if you prefer to consume your podcast that way. And you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So do it.
Just please.
Just do it.
Do it. Please.
We ask so little of you, except that we're always saying, like, give us money. So.
I know this preamble is getting longer and longer every time.
You'll notice I cut the Discord. I cut the old TikTok part out, though.
That's fine. I didn't have I had no juice anyway.
Never going to dance again.
Nope.
Guilty Feet ain't got no rhythm.
God, I love that album.
Yep. If you listen on YouTube, do us a favor. Give the episode a like. Leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys. Because, hey, Dave.
Yeah, what? Hey.
Who's this over here?
Well, we have guests. Not one, but two guests. We have an artist, a musician. They are podcasters. They're two of my favorite Canadians. It's Johnny and Tyler from That's Spooky. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
Dave, I'm glad you saw my posters.
Yeah, right.
It is Women's History Month. So
it is.
I thought, what better way to celebrate Women's History Month than getting four dudes together to talk about some films that women make?
Because, yeah, let me tell you something. I got to tell you. When you were like, we're going to do Women's History Month, we're going to do women in horror, we're going to celebrate women with Slumber Party Massacre. Because
I was genuine when I said that, and I am still genuine about that because this has an interesting history.
Having now done the reading, done all the research, learning the context of this movie, I get it. I fucking get it, and it is extremely appropriate. And I'm looking forward to really getting into it because there is the production history of this stupid, barely a feature length movie is interesting as fuck.
Yeah, the blowback to this film is real sad, unfortunately.
Yeah. The Roger Corman of it all is
it's a heartbreaker.
Striking.
It's so bad because I am
on the same level. Oh, sorry.
No, I am a fan. We did an entire episode celebrating this man's life. We derailed our regularly scheduled programming to do an entire Roger Corman episode. Humongous fans. However, I was aware that once he broke off of AIP, things kind of went awry for him. Yeah. And this is the movie that just lays it bare.
I was going to say,
literally,
this is kind of the movie equivalent of that Shaggy song, Power of a Woman, where he was like, I'm going to make up for all the misogyny in It Wasn't Me by doing this other video, like just to fulfill the Madonna or whore dichotomy. He just swung to the other end of it all. But you know what? Like, I can't judge, actually. I've got a Russ Meyer upper thigh tattoo. Not him, but Tura Satana from Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Right.
Killing a guy in the desert. So, I mean, you know... as the Roger Corman biopic says, there is a fault in our stars. Yeah.
Is that what that movie's about?
Absolutely, yeah. Roger Corman, fun fact.
When Roger Corman gets cancer, he's in love with that girl.
Yep, absolutely.
And then he's like, what if we made a movie and it was just 70% your boobs?
He's had more influence on cinema than you realize.
I guess so.
It's a fun fact. Yeah.
I mean, if it weren't for all the boobs, this movie wouldn't even be a feature length. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. It would be Host. Yeah. It would be that length. Yeah.
You do kind of have to wonder, like, what did they cut? Either what did they cut out to fit those scenes in, or why did they accept a script that was like 50 minutes long?
I don't know.
Well, I know all I know about this is that like Amy Jones got to it, and she had to do a little bit of a reworking to it. And her thing was like, this was barely a movie, which kind of makes sense because Rita Mae Brown wasn't a screenwriter at the time.
No,
I believe this was like her real first pass at writing a script. And so like we've done movies in the past where like that sort of person kind of comes into the filmmaking scene in Hollywood. Somebody says like, write us a movie, show us what you got. And then they do it. And then it sits on a shelf forever because it's like 40 pages long. And it's like a lot of like, it's not a whole lot of dialogue. It's just framework of a movie that somebody then has to kind of come along to and like make an actual functional shooting script out of it. And I think that's really what happened with this one, because it's still full of like very, like real Rita Mae Brown type touches, but Amy Jones's kind of approach to it kind of strips out anything sort of meaningfully feminist about it. It's such a strange movie with a weird tone throughout.
Yeah, it is very clear that there are two perspectives happening in this movie, and they are very much at odds with one another in the best possible way. That is like, it is baffling and hilarious.
Yeah.
All right.
This movie is just fighting its own reflection the entire time.
We were giving it a rewatch last night, and the way I described it was it's like one of those like Looney Tunes fist fights when it just becomes like a cloud with all hands on deck running around. It gets absolutely wild at a certain point. I'm not going to say that it fully reminds me of Terrifier, but I think it suffers a similar kind of thing that the Terrifier franchise does, where it's like somebody who was casting really loved brunette women. And so there are so many characters who, like, upon first rewatch for me, I was like, Johnny.
Who? Oh my God.
Someone needs a hat and a pair of glasses.
We rewatched this in the Discord the other night. I actually remarked out loud, I don't know who any of these girls are. I confuse every single one of them. I'm like, who the fuck is that now?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler was saying it makes a really great case for everyone having different haircuts. Like, the blonde, the black-haired person, the brunette, everyone.
Or, here's a better idea. Maybe we just some more diverse casting.
True.
That's true.
But see, that's the 1980s version of it.
That's true.
It's like, Barbie and her friends, it's like they weren't ready to like really cross the lines yet, so they gave her Teresa.
Yeah. No, if they'd made this in the 90s, it would be like black girl, girl in a wheelchair, 4 white ladies. That's about it.
Right. Yeah. All right. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds yet. Let's we've already said we're talking about Slumber Party Massacre. Here's the fucking trailer.
The basketball team is planning a party. A slumber party. The party begins at 8 o'clock.
Love it too. You think I'm getting better?
But be on the lookout for an uninvited guest.
Please, please.
When the pizza arrives, things really start jumping. Some people may have to leave early, but others will hang around and hang around.
Courtney, you're underage. Negative. Let's go.
I'm not gonna eat the dead guy's pizza.
I feel better already. Really, I do.
But for those who stay, there'll be plenty of surprises. And non-stop action. One thing's for sure, no one getting any sleep the night of the Slumber Party Massacre. Close your eyes for a second and sleep forever.
Oh, boy.
I think I can see why women were upset.
Yeah. I mean, you see the trailer, you've seen the
Pretty
movie.
much.
Pretty
I
much.
mean,
Yeah.
if I saw that trailer, I would be like, what the fuck is this movie? It looks terrible.
I avoided this one for so fucking long because I just sort of assumed that it was shit. Like it fell into that kind of far end of the like that early 80s slasher boom where just it was like rock bottom slasher shit like the Boogeyman and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
God knows we never watched those.
But I kept thinking of the House on Sorority Row as I watched this because like that's a movie that is kind as a lot of the sort of similar strokes in the broadest sense, but like all of like our feelings about that one are pretty warm because like the girls in it all sort of have like very unique personalities and they're all sort of like they all have these kind of like internal landscapes that sort of set them apart and make them all interesting. And this is just the anti version of that where like every girl in the movie is like essentially the same character. They all look so much alike that I'm constantly confusing them with one another. I'm like, didn't she fucking die like 5 minutes ago? Like so much of that is happening in this movie, but like finally sitting down to take it seriously, I kind of come out at the other end feeling like it's a remarkably entertaining movie.
Yeah, the fun thing is, I don't know if I should even call it fun, but I first came into this franchise through Tyler. We've been together as a couple, not just a podcasting duo, but as a couple for about 13 years now. And Tyler is a huge fan of the second movie, not to blow up your spot, but I watched that first. So I had actually rewatched that first before I even saw this. So the whole time I'm going through, I'm like looking for connective tissue. I'm like, well, I can see.
You're waiting for a musical number?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm like, how does this get combined with Rockadoodle? But it does. You know, at one point today we were giving it another rewatch, and I was like, I think the killers do kind of look alike if you really just look at the eyes. But
If you squint.
No, it's awful. But yeah, I know the thing is they're completely removed from each other in a Troll 1, Troll 2 kind of way, outside of some effort on their behalf.
There's it's just the Courtney character is the only kind of persistent character.
Yeah, she goes on a journey, which I love, but I think that's also kind of the unfortunate thing about having that movie so deep in my guts. I had like songs from the second movie in my head as I'm watching the first, and it was a mess.
All right, let's talk turkey here. Let's talk the facts.
Oh yeah.
All right, so the year was 1982.
Heard of it.
Year of our Lord. We're back in our fucking sweet spot. You know,
Thank God.
eventually we're going to run out of 1982 horror movies to talk about.
I
It's a
don't know
sad
that we
day.
will.
Because I think the bulk of our episodes take place in that year. It's so fucking weird. So here were some other movies that were released that year. We got Basket Case came out that year.
Ooh.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's all right. Have you ever seen The Sender?
No.
No.
That one is not good, but it's interesting.
I'll take interesting.
It's like a mind control movie where a guy can kind of like move his consciousness into other people. It's got a fucking great poster. That's the thing that I always remember.
That's half
about
the
it.
battle.
A movie does not have to be good for me to enjoy it. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh God, yeah. If y'all know me, you know I love shit. So
yeah, look,
I'll
I
do
grew
the
up. I
legwork.
grew up in the punk scene where you just buy records based on what's on the cover. If you have a skateboard on the cover, I'm in.
Yep.
Same.
Like that's all it takes for horror movies too.
I personally go too hard for the Hell House LLC franchise. Like I will defend things. Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows,
boy.
love it.
I was told the first thing I ever learned about Johnny was his favorite movie is Blair Witch 2, and I was like,
No, it's not.
I was like, how do I start a conversation with someone like that? And I still don't know.
Your
I'm
baby.
being honest.
Whoa. I
Highly
mean,
regarded, though.
at the same time, at the same time, like we went absolutely fucking ape shit for the movie X-Ray.
Yeah.
So
That's true. That's true.
I
Look,
didn't
you
know.
could take that up with Michael Sorois. This information came directly from him.
No, it's okay.
Set the
No,
record
fun
He has
straight,
fact.
Johnny.
maligned
What's your
you,
favorite
apparently.
movie?
Mortal Kombat, I believe.
Okay, but I also asked
oh my god,
Tyler-
dude, I love this so much.
I
just-
asked
no, I
Tyler a year ago, what is, I think I said, is this his favorite movie? And I don't know if
It's
you
one
said
of-
yes, but
That's
It's
fucking
up there. It's
fantastic.
like Halloween, Mortal Kombat, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows. But I just didn't know that was what people say
yeah,
behind my
those
back.
four go together.
Possession.
people are talking shit.
love Possession, like.
Oh boy, I can't imagine watching Possession more than once.
Ooh.
Oh, my uncle died last fall, and I watched it like a few times in a week. I was just so. I had
Oh
a
my
moment.
God.
That and The Substance. It came out on big screen, and I was like, just kill me with sound. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, I digress.
Okay, also in '82, there was a Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes. It was, it's not Stuart Gordon, but it's something like that, isn't it?
I don't know. I just saw it on the list and I was like, God damn, I had no idea. But yeah. Also, The Ghost Dance came out in 1982.
Oh man, that is okay. Here's what I'll say about Ghost Dance. I was expecting, for those who do not know, it is a horror movie that draws very heavily from Native heritage. I have a lot of problems with films like that for obvious reasons. And I went into this movie. I watched it maybe 6 months ago. Vinegar Syndrome put it out, and I went into it being like, okay, this one's going to be racist as hell. I'm just going to gird my loins. And I'll tell you what, not really. There's maybe a little bit here and there.
It's
but
like when I went to watch Thunder, and I was like, okay, now this is going to be a racist fucking movie, and it still managed to surprise me.
Thunder gets it so wrong that you're like, you're Italian. I guess is all I can say for that.
All right. Anyways, rounding out 1982, can't fucking talk about 1982 without talking about our favorite movie, X-Ray.
Hell yes, I love that movie.
God damn it. Go back, listen to our X-Ray episode if you have not. Our friends Johnny and Eileen join us for that one, and they go about as insane as we did.
Oh, it's so good.
Yep. So we got our cast and crew to discuss here. We've got our director, Amy Holden Jones, who first got into film as Martin Scorsese's assistant during Taxi Driver.
Mm-hmm.
And then he recommended her to Roger Corman, who employed her as an editor on some of his earliest New World projects.
Mostly trailers, it turns out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she worked in like the trailers department, and because so Scorsese was like, yeah, you should just check her out. She's pretty good at this. And he was like, yeah, she's a really good editor. And so he was like, I've got a job in this department. Do you want that? And of course she was like, well, yeah, I want any job, which is how she ends up making this movie basically. But
yeah.
Yeah, she just worked on that and like was trying to get her own shit off the ground. I get the feeling she's not, I mean, I can tell from this movie, she's not a very good director. She's good at something though, because she's been in this business for a long time and she's pretty productive.
Turns out she's a very productive writer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So heading into the 80s, she was up to do post-production on E.T., but was offered a chance to direct any of Corman's unproduced scripts instead. And chose,
Amy.
It chose this
Amy.
one. Chose
I'm
this
so
one for
sorry.
better or for worse.
Well,
I know.
God
Directing
bless
isn't
her.
really her thing, though. She goes on to be have a prolific career as a writer and producer, bringing the world the entire Beethoven series.
What?
Really?
The Big
Yeah.
Dog movie. Yeah, all of them. Like all of them.
Oh,
she
are her.
single-handedly revitalized Charles Grodin's career.
My God, yeah, that
Yeah,
touched me
name one
as a
other
child.
Grodin movie.
Right.
I
She
can do
wrote
it.
and directed Mystic Pizza,
Oh.
and is
No,
also
she didn't.
the
She did not direct it, did she?
No,
She just wrote it.
she just wrote it, and I believe she was a producer on it.
Yeah.
And she also wrote and produced Indecent Proposal, just to name a few. Like she's got a very long credits list. Like she's done a
And
lot.
The Relic, which is a terrible film.
And we cannot talk about this movie without talking about its writer, Rita Mae Brown. Dave, tell me all about
All
Rita
right.
Mae Brown here.
Well, for people who do not know, Rita Mae Brown was, I think she's still alive. She wrote a book in the 70s called Ruby Fruit Jungle, which is, I mean, even at the time when it came out, it was a pretty foundational lesbian text. Like it's early to mid 70s. And it is unashamed well, that might not be the right word, but it is upfront in its lesbianism.
It's explicit.
Yeah. And it became a huge, like, I used to work with a queer history group. And one of the women that I worked very closely with and was very close with for many years, she came of age in like the 60s and 70s. And she was like, this book was like unlike anything anyone had ever seen before in how like just honest it was. And it was taken very seriously as literature. And so I don't know, she was lesbian, but she kind of gets a little vague. She pulls a little bit of an Ani DeFranco on us about midway through her life, where she starts to get a little ambiguous.
All of a sudden, she's married to a dude.
To say that Ani DeFranco had a big top hat and like a curly mustache, and she was like, "I'm gonna get them with this one."
Pretty much. I mean, it's like when Anne Burrell married a man, and I was just like, "Oh, how could you?"
Yeah.
But she was a very serious writer, very like, literature. And she decided that she wanted to try her hand at screenwriting.
Which is actually an element of the story in Ruby Fruit Jungle.
Yeah, because that was like, she wanted to like be a creative person, like a Renaissance woman. And so she like goes into it, and I don't know, like, I don't really know her reason for why she chose horror. I think it was more like I don't know, this one seems pretty easy, which, well, turns out you're wrong about that one. So she kind of does this like a Halloween ripoff that's called Don't Open the Door. And she like submits it to Corman's company at the time. And he was like, yeah, thanks. I'll give it a look. And I think he did look it over, and he was like, yeah, it's not bad, but he didn't really have anything to do with it. So he shelves it until Amy Jones comes along and was like, because she had worked for him, and then like a year later, because he said, do you want to direct a movie? And I think at the time she was trying to get her own thing going. And so she was like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to go pursue my thing. And so she comes back a year later and was like, hey, remember when you said I could direct a movie? And he was like, yeah, that's what I thought, Amy Jones. And so he is sort of like, here's a bunch of scripts. Which of these scripts do you want to direct? And she, for some fucking reason, chose this one. And
according to her, in the first 9 pages, it had a very compelling sort of 3-part structure that she thought would be pretty easy to shoot.
And so what she ended up doing was she shot about 7 minutes of footage. Like, she and her husband go down to UCLA's campus. They shoot about 7 minutes of footage and cut it together, basically into like not a trailer, but like a preview of sorts. And she gives it to Corman, and he was like, yeah, sure, you did a nice job. This looks cool. Like, let's do it. And so I don't really know what happens. I think the backlash to specifically Rita Mae Brown has kind of overshadowed whatever happens in between. But I don't really know how the script itself comes to be, because it's not quite the same movie that she initially wrote. And as we have alluded to it, but it is in a lot of ways. I think a lot of it is the same story, because as much as Rita Mae Brown was a feminist and lesbian, a lot of shit, like a lot of famous people, a lot of shit gets projected onto her. And people make a lot of assumptions about who she is politically and who she is sort of intellectually.
I know, when you told me this detail, I was like, oh my God, that's the saddest shit, because it's not her fucking fault. Like, she wrote a different movie, and what got produced just had her fucking name on it, even though it had been rewritten. So it's kind of like the sort of ignorance of the public in how films end up getting made. All of these people who are like, hey, we thought you were on our side. What's the story here? Like, turned on her because this fucking movie is like really sleazy and shitty.
Like, if you are a Stephen King fan, I think if you follow like readers of Stephen King, one of the big things is like, people often assume that he is his politics are very much like theirs. And so when he speaks out about political things, which he does quite often, everyone's always like, historically, everyone has always been taken aback by it. They're like, wait, he's liberal? And it's like, yeah, man, he's from Maine.
Right.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is when the movie comes out, people are absolutely horrified that Rita Mae Brown, who they assume to be a sort of a like militant lesbian feminist, has written this thing that most of them hadn't even seen yet, but they assumed it was going to be this sort of misogynistic, another misogynistic horror movie, and it is. It basically is that. But so I don't know if you want to get into the what happens after that yet, but that is who Rita Mae Brown is. She is a novelist. She is a lesbian who maybe occasionally dates men at the time. It was the 70s. Come on.
She's got, you gotta diversify your bonds.
I mean, who among us?
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny when people are like, "Oh, this fluidity thing that's so new," and it's like, my dude.
Also, like, just relax. Everybody relax.
Yeah, folks have been fluid for a long time.
Yeah. As for our cast, I was hoping to find some interesting facts about these actresses. Yeah. But on most of them, unfortunately, their experience is consistent with a lot of young women who star in low-budget horror movies at the time. They appeared in this and not much else.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Michelle Michaels was in Death Wish 4.
There you go.
Right.
That's something.
She plays Trish, lands this role early in her career, promptly ends up in super low-budget fare for Cann, playing characters with names like Businesswoman and Woman with Child. Yep.
That's like the lady in the lady in Threads who is just listed in the credits as woman who pees her pants. That coveted role.
Yep. Listen, if being woman who pees your pants pays the bills, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's the thing. The royalty check, if it's there, like, why not take it? You got a good
that's
agent?
Gonna be that's the story of this movie.
Well, here's the thing. Because I have watched that movie so many times and I have watched the nuclear attack scene so many times, I immediately knew exactly who that woman was. I saw her immediately. So, woman who pees her pants, good for you.
Hell yeah. And we're going to see you later on this year, I promise.
Oh, boy. That's going to be a hard one. That's going to be so fucking hard.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, Michelle Michaels, her career kind of comes to a halt in the early 90s. Even sadder, Robin Still, who plays Valerie, she has a similar career trajectory. This role, again, drops early, then she slips into roles with names like Party Girl Number 3 and Coat Check Girl. She is, however, a featured player in Sorority Babes at the Slimeball Bowl-orama and American Ninja 4.
I fucking hate that movie.
I know. Unfortunately, she committed suicide in the 90s.
Well, thanks a lot, Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-orama.
Right.
I put this squarely at your feet.
I think that's a fair assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And rounding out the cast, we got Michael Villella as Russ Thorne, the killer. No one really launched a career off of this movie, not even this dude, who, if you ask me, is a pretty good killer character.
He's fine.
He's all right.
He's in Wild Orchid 1 and 2. Very sexy films.
Right.
I mean, if you've ever spent any time in a video store, you'd know those movies.
Oh, yeah. You see a Mickey Rourke prominently on the cover, and you're like, that's a movie with a lot of fucking in it.
I was like, wasn't that Fergie's first pop group? But Wild Orchid? I don't know.
Wild. Why did they keep putting Mickey Rourke in sexy movies? It's like,
I don't know.
It's like someone dresses up a honey ham, and they're like, here you go.
Yeah, he made Angel Heart, which has some pretty explicit scenes in it. And they were like, you know what? I think we need to see that guy's bare ass in more movies.
No, and I am a homosexual, and I do not want to see that man's bare ass ever.
But this is the thing. It was probably heterosexual men making those casting decisions.
See? That's why they're just like, oh, you mean this Christmas ham? Sure. Well, everybody wants to see him fuck.
Hell yeah.
He's the peak of male physique.
Yeah. Everyone always wanted to know what Hulk Hogan's dick looked like, and this is the closest we can get.
It's like he's like what Bret the Hitman Hart looked like at the end.
Ooh, after the kick from Goldberg, yeah.
I mean, that was implied. You took it to the gutter.
I'm Canadian.
I
can. My uncle waited at the mall to get his autograph for me as a kid.
You can claim him. It's fine.
Yeah, he was our hero. Trust me.
So we got a couple of taglines here. There's the one that's on all the posters, and it is close your eyes for a second and sleep forever.
Boo, bad tagline.
Yeah. And then this one was on the video. This one was on the videotapes. The ultimate driller killer thriller.
That was better.
I wonder if that was a maybe a British release. Because-
it might have been.
Because the Driller Killer was like the
video
that
nasty,
inspired the video nasties list, and so I think a lot of people tried to capitalize on that. That movie not very good. You just watch Abel Ferrara sweat.
So one of the details that you left out was Rita Mae Brown wrote this in 1978, back when Halloween was the only game in town, and boy, can you see it.
Literally, you can literally see it.
This movie has so much Halloween in it; it's crazy. And this movie is not even 80 minutes long.
They lift an entire scene straight from Halloween.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's true.
Multiple.
Light blue, light and all.
Oh,
Yep. Right. The opening scene, which you had mentioned when Jones was basically doing the demo reel for Corman, was all shot on short ends. Do you know what short ends are? It's literally unused film stock that, like, when a movie goes to get like processed in the lab, like they just chop off the end of the magazine that's unused, and then they respool it and they sell it for like super fucking cheap.
so do they buy like? So are you buying 10 feet, or do they tape it together?
I think you're buying it like you get like 100 feet of
Like whatever's left on the roll.
essentially, and it just gets respooled. And the thing is like
All right,
the
we can do
downside
that.
of that obviously is like you might know how much you're buying, but you don't necessarily know how much time that amounts to.
Right.
With like a full regular magazine of film, it's like 11 minutes, I think, of 35. And with this, like this could be like 30 seconds. This could be 8 minutes. You never know.
And it's funny you bring up the 35 thing, because that was the big selling point for Roger Corman, because she made this like 7-minute introductory thing or whatever, and the guy brings it to him and he's like, wait, did she shoot this on 16 or 35? And he was like 35, I think, and he was like, okay, good, yeah, we'll take it. And I think my theory is that he probably did that because he wanted it for drive-ins.
Yeah.
Because 16 is going to look like shit on a drive-in theater.
Yeah, he knew exactly. Yeah, he knew exactly what his audience was. So,
And I mean, the runtime makes sense for that too. If you're doing like a double feature, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got an hour and 15 and an hour and 15.
Yeah.
That gives you like 2.5 hours.
I would be interested to go back and sort of like see what a lot of New World movies at that time were running at, because I was on a New World kick and I watched Battle Beyond the Stars last night. That movie's almost 2 hours long.
Oh, sexy Star Wars.
The one with where the spaceship has boobs.
This movie comes up an awful lot on this show for some reason.
I mean,
For a
you had
movie
me at
I have
Spaceship
seen
with
one
boobs.
time.
Yeah, I was like, there's a sexy Star Wars, a sexier Star Wars.
Oh, it's got Sybil Danning in it in like very revealing clothing. Yeah, it's a sexy.
Because I wanted
it's
to
a
be
huge-
Han Solo's friend as a kid and didn't know why. Like, I wanted to be like his best friend. Went as him for Halloween so many years. That's a whole thing. Yeah.
Like I wanted to be his best friend. Like maybe we go skinny dipping sometimes.
Exactly.
We're that kind of friends. You know how it is with kids.
We can practice kiss. Yeah, absolutely.
Make a Rourke movie
it's
together.
nothing gay.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe Dante assisted in the post-production of that original demo as well.
Yes, because she was pretty close with Joe Dante as well. Joe Dante, quite famously, not a piece of shit.
So he's a good guy.
He's
Good
one
guy
of the
through-
rare not pieces of shit who's going to come up in this story.
No, she cut it on his fucking movie-ola of all things. That must have been such a goddamn nightmare. At the same time that he was basically cutting dailies for The Howling.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. After Corman saw this, he awarded her a budget of $200,000 to make this
Which I
entire
think
movie.
eventually got up to
It got
like
up to
4 to
220.
5. I
It got
thought it
up
was
to-
a little bit higher.
No, it was 220 because she gave him the movie that essentially ends in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, okay, whoa, this is good. Let's make it a little bit better. And so then they did the reshoots for like an additional.
Well, so she says what Amy Jones says about that is I got to find the quote because it's actually kind of a funny quote. I'll just paraphrase. Basically, she was like, it originally had a different ending, but I honestly do not remember at all what it was. So it was probably pretty stupid. And I was like, no, lady, it was basically the same fucking ending. You just put a swimming pool in it instead.
I love it. Yeah. And this was like a location that they scouted. The house belonged to like some people who lived there and stuff, like while they were making the movie, and they completely fucking ruined their swimming pool.
Oh,
It's
hell
like that
yeah.
episode of, did you ever watch that show, The League?
Yeah.
where they rent out one of their houses to some company to make a porn movie, but they end up doing like all this really gross shit in it, and they're like, I don't think I want this anymore.
Yeah, it sounds enticing to have like to use your house for a movie and be like, it's cool. My house is going to be in a movie, and I'm going to get paid for it. But they will destroy your fucking house.
Yeah, every person.
I worked art department in film for a little bit before we went into podcasting full blast. And as we were starting this podcast, I was just finishing up on a show called Secrets of the Morgue, where we were like recreating crime scenes in these poor, like lovely people, but poor, unfortunate folks for the fact that they gave up their home to have crime scenes recreated in. And
oh boy,
they're like, I was the prop master. So essentially I was dressing blood, fog, and just dead body adjacent things. And yeah, just the amount of carpets that were soaked in one particular house that had a wet body drug in it. It's like, that's not coming out.
Oh,
I like that it's blood and fog, and I was thinking like, where are these crimes taking place? Victorian England?
Foggy London town.
The idea was that the show is like a talking head with somebody who works in a morgue, so they're talking about the crime scenes and the people that I deal with the scenes, and then I was part of the unit that was doing the actual just like B-roll of the crime scenes. So there was a lot of atmospheric fog and just after the body moments, those moments.
Trust me, some of us are well versed in true crime. We know how it goes.
No, to counter that, like I PA'd on a bunch of my dad's commercials, and they would shoot locations as well, but they would be like super paranoid about like doing any kind of damage. And there was one that I was on where they ended up like repainting a person's like entire room. Because like somebody like gouged like the wall with like, I don't know, like a C-stand or something like that. And so like, and it was just like a little mark on the wall that they had like spackled it. They just fucking pulled everything out and repainted the entire fucking room. It was crazy.
Yeah,
they're the good ones.
I was working for somebody who was just like, oh, well, it's okay. We'll just ask for forgiveness, not permission. So just go blast that confetti cannon filled with blood and cat food at these lace curtains and they'll be okay. We'll get it out. We'll use Lysol wipes.
Yeah, you hear that, Americans? You were right about Canadians all along. This is who they are, really.
Duplicitous snakes.
So evil.
And we're coming.
You guys, welcome to the 51st state, guys.
Thanks so much.
I don't even like the jokes.
Oh, our connection's cutting out. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, gotta go. Bye.
The ghost of Roger Corman. Robert. Anyway, sorry.
So Jones insists that this movie is a comedy. I disagree, at least to the insistence that it's a comedy on purpose.
They tried.
I think it was a satire.
I read
satire
that like the intention was for it to be a parody. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's sort of revisionist sort of history, being like, well, let's just try and make it seem like we were trying to do something we weren't trying to do.
I think it is. I think it is true because I used to have, and I probably still have somewhere. I have so many fucking ridiculous old like gay bar newspapers just piled up in the storage unit in Medford. I really do. It's a bit of a hoarder, but I have read a lot about this in the past, and I had even read some of the original script because it got published a bunch of times when there was this controversy, and it's pretty on point, like what you see. It's just that when Roger Corman gets involved and some of the other producers get involved, because this has like 5 producers on it. When they all get involved, they're mostly men and they don't get it. And so when they're like, okay, well, this is like, these are, jokes. And Corman would be like, I don't understand. What do you mean they're jokes?
Oh, yeah, it was like I was telling you before. When Paul Bartel came to him with Death Race, he was like, okay, this is cool, but what's with all these fucking jokes?
See?
And he's like, it's a fucking send up, like it's a spoof. And he's like, yeah, I don't think people are going to get that. And then, he was famously quite wrong, but like,
I mean, look, I think the takeaway here is that Roger Corman did not understand the gays.
Mm-hmm.
Because really what happens is like they get involved and they're just sort of like, yeah, we're going to shoot it this way. And Amy Jones is so like, she just wants to be in the industry. So she's like, yeah, like, okay, sure. Like I think someone asked her a question at, it was either in an interview or like in a like a convention or something, and someone's like, well, why didn't you like assert yourself more? And she was basically just like, It was 1981. I'm a woman and I had never made a movie before, and it's Roger Corman. What am I supposed to say to him? And she also was very she was very upfront about like Roger also gave me a lot of breaks, and he took a big fucking gamble on me. Like, I'm not going to throw that back in his face either. If he wants to do it this way, that's the way we're going to do it.
Well, and it's one of those things I can also understand because I've never been an editor, but I've heard a lot of editors share the sentiment that when you are a good editor, even if you do other things, sometimes you just get locked into being a good editor because so many people edit who don't like to do it and don't want to do it, and it becomes this process. But yeah, like I can imagine that she may have also just been like, well, if I don't take this opportunity, I could be locked into, being some director's favorite editor, and it's like, great, I got this work, but I'm not doing what I want.
Yeah, right. and that's the same thing. That's basically where Rita Brown is coming from as well. Is that she? So and that we'll come back to that in a bit. But like that was really her position too. Is she's like, what the fuck was I going to do? I wanted to write a movie, and so if I want to write movies, I have to kind of play by their rules. Like I'm not like some maverick who's going to come in and because who is straight white men? That's who is.
Yeah.
And so neither of them are that, and so like. They were smart enough to know, like, if we're going to do this, we kind of got to do it their way, at least for now, hopefully, which turned out to be forever for most of them. But it's just like, it's silly to be like, why didn't you stand up to these men? And it's like, why don't you stand up to men, feminist movement?
Right. So I don't want to drag this out too much longer, but I just have two more little details. One, there are two sequels to this. There is Part 2, which is a bit of a musical. There's Part 3, which I've never seen, and there was a remake in 2021.
Yes, I've never seen it. I imagine it's like the Prom Night remake, where it's like it's kind of the same, but not really, and it's also bad.
And nobody believes.
Right, and then lastly, the soundtrack to this movie is very particular. It's very prominent, and it's really fucking loud. It was composed on a Casio MT40 keyboard, which I hesitate to call a synthesizer because it was essentially a toy.
When I looked at it, I was like, I'm picturing the MIDI keyboard.
It's
like the kids version of it.
Yeah, it's like my little mini controller that I produce all the fucking theme songs to this shit on.
Oh no, Johnny, thoughts? You look like you're looking it up.
I believe I have one of these. Oh no! I have a version of one of these, but yeah, no. This was like a consumer. This was
like you bought it at like fucking Sears or Radio Shack. It was eventually, I think it was replaced with the SK1, which was the one that had the little button that you push that could sample like 3 seconds of like low res sound.
Yeah, I've got that one as well, and then I've got like the little dude that's like the VL40, and that's what I thought this was for a second. But yeah, because it's also got those like little bass notes on the end. So yeah, this is it's a cute keyboard. You could definitely tell though as they were going through. I don't know. There's a part of me though, because I'm kind of a nerd for these old synths and keyboards. I kind of liked it. Didn't like the sound mixing.
So I have this.
There's a dance hall reggae. Like there was a movement around the same time that that keyboard was released that was sort of built entirely on one of its rhythm presets.
I think the bossa nova.
And then like one of the because the bossa nova rhythm is very, very dance hall reggae in itself, but like there was also like one of the instrument presets that like kind of set the world on fire in that scene for a little while.
Oh so, like the slang tang, yeah.
So it is also the entire soundtrack is also Amy Jones' brother.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Yeah, his name is Ralph Jones. It's the soundtrack. If you try to listen to it on its own, it does not hold up super well.
It's so grating, but it works as like little suspense stings, like that theme that comes around every time like Russ Thorne slides into frame is like I'm like okay I'm into it, but I couldn't imagine putting that on as like an independent record and just like listening to it.
No, I'm a record nerd. That's probably the only reason I own it. It is a glitter record, which is kind of fun.
That's fun.
But that's the only reason I have it. But yeah, it does not hold up well on its own. He did some of the other, so the movie she makes right after this is called Love Letters. Because like I guess they kind of the success of this movie, relative success of this movie, warranted something else, and so she was like, I've got another movie, and it's called Love Letters, and it's a serious drama, and nobody liked it. But he did
like when George Romero was like, all right, I'm done with this Night of the Living Dead shit. There's always vanilla.
And then everyone was like, no, you're not done with this Night of the Living Dead shit. Don't ever do that again.
Give me more zombies, George.
But that's it.
So hey, what did the press think of this?
Oh no, they didn't like it. They didn't like it. Nobody liked this movie.
Did Gene Genie show up?
No.
Really?
No, surprise. So this is because it's a relatively small release, New World was very new at the time. So they didn't have a huge distribution. So it didn't get a huge release. So I did find some stuff. We're going to start with the LA Times. My gray lady, the LA Times, my old gray lady. In spite of some credibly and sympathetically written relationships between characters and some good performances by its young actors, The Slumber Party Massacre is yet another reprehensible and gory exploitation movie about a crazed killer who goes around butchering innocent victims. Linda Gross, LA Times.
I mean, that gives it a bit too much credit, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem we're going to run into is that most of this stuff is a little dragged down by like, everybody thought horror movies were garbage.
Yeah.
Well, respectable people thought horror movies were garbage. So they're not going to give it a good review based solely on that. But moving on, the New York Times, the actual gray lady, I guess. What do you get when today's cheap, bloody horror format is turned over to a woman screenwriter and a woman director? Not much and nothing good.
Ooh.
Even if the director has some slight sense of humor and the writer is the novelist Rita Mae Brown, and the fact that Miss Brown and Miss Jones have obviously tried to inject a little satire and innovation into the genre, just makes the ultimate vulgarity of their film all the more disappointing. I will say, in the defense of Janet Maslin, she's the only one I'm going to defend here because I like her, but in Janet Maslin's defense, I think that just everybody was tired of this shit by 1982.
Oh shit, yeah. We are right at the moment where the wave breaks.
Mm-hmm. And like there's not going to be any we are very far off from postmodernism. So like the idea that there is some redeeming value to something like this, they just cannot see it. And maybe they would, I don't know if Janet Maslin would see it now. She probably wouldn't, but the fact remains like they're just not going to see the value of this movie because the humor is different. It's so fucking weird. Like it's not going to happen. So none of these are going to be good. Variety magazine, who I think actually did kind of like it. Out of traditional horror material consisting of red herrings, sudden shock movements into frame, etc., Helmer Amy Jones develops some very stylish sequences. No, she doesn't. Notably is a complex mid-film montage, because that's notably stylish. A mid-film montage out of nowhere.
Oh, that never happens.
No, mixing a horror film on TV, actual killings by the nut, and the sister chatting humorously on the phone. Variety. That's called filmmaking. This is a movie.
Mm-hmm. And I could be honest, I find that sequence so fucking tedious.
Right.
It goes on way too long because they're just like, oh, what did they do in Halloween that was really good? And how can we do that less good?
Yeah, I think there are some nice shots in it, but I wouldn't say that like the sequences are like a strong feature. You know, there's like that great like bird's eye view, like tipping down in the gym with like the light fixtures, and it's giving, I don't know, like there's stuff like that that's kind of pleasing to the eye, but
there is one that I actually genuinely really like, and it's when Thorne is chasing Brink Stevens' character around the locker room.
I'm sorry, Brinky Stevens, please. Brinky. Brinky Stevens is her name.
Okay.
Brinky. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain.
All right. Well, go on.
Last one. Well, sort of last one. There's a lot. Settle in, everybody. The reaction to this film is a big part of the story. So the last one from a legitimate actual critic. The single most compelling line of dialogue comes when a bunch of the gals are showering down in the locker room. Gals. They are really getting in a good scrub. This is good journalism, everybody. And the camera is unwavering upon them. And someone at the script desk must have figured that there couldn't be silence here, lest the film's energy peak too soon. So one latherette turns to another and says, Trish, can I have the soap? And you get that old cinema verite feeling. That's Bill Cosford, Miami Herald. Couple things, Bill. First of all, you're a bad writer. You're just a bad writer. You put words together poorly. This is extremely dismissive. And I would say this review is more misogynistic than the actual fucking movie is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And it was just like, and then the one lady says to the other one, fancy dialogue, ha ha ha.
Please pass
Eat a bag of dicks, man.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah, sorry,
So-
I'm still digesting that one. Ooh.
So then we get to the gay media. They are less charitable. So this is from Plexus magazine, which is not a magazine I'm familiar with. But
Never heard of it.
it goes as such. If you took negatives of the most gruesome images in Women Against Violence and Pornography and Media's slideshow and spliced them together to make a film, you'd still have a Walt Disney movie compared to Slumber Party Massacre. Of course, I knew better than to expect a depiction of several politically conscious women spending the night together to brainstorm their next fundraiser. Rosemary Regelo.
Damn.
You're giving this movie too much credit.
Well,
I don't
so
think it's that
here's-
shocking.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the 70s and we'll call it second feminism. Not known for their sense of humor.
Yeah, completely.
The problem with all of this is, and we're going to get into this a little bit right now, is that they have a standard for what is acceptable and for what women should be doing. And the fact that they could never see another manifestation of feminism was kind of their undoing. Everybody, if you were a feminist, in this case, feminist lesbian, you had to live by and behave in a certain way. And if you didn't, you were automatically the enemy. Now, I'm making a big generalization here, but that was sort of how it went. And that is going to become very apparent in everything else that happens after this. So in a couple months after that, I have another letter. This is a letter to the editor from Plexus magazine. And it says, this is just part of the letter. Rita Mae Brown has written a violent and sexist movie script to, as she told the audience in Marin, perfect her timing on the screen and make money. I guess we're supposed to be shocked by that. I believe, as a feminist, she owes that community and all the women who continue to be brutalized as a result of movies like Slumber Party Massacre an apology. Hold on, it's not over. It might also be appropriate to donate that money to shelters for battered women or rape crisis.
Holy shit, man.
What?
Yeah, now here's
It
the
operates
problem.
on the same fucking principle that Gene Siskel's Outrage always did, in that these movies are what is making men violent.
Yes, because it's much easier to say these movies are what's making men violent rather than say, hey, everybody, what's making men so violent? Because I'm pretty sure it's not the fucking movies.
Certainly not.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's not. I mean, they might not have been helping, but the idea that because Rita Mae Brown was a legitimate author of novels, that she, first of all, should have no interest in making money. That's absurd.
Yeah.
And also that, as she said, so what this person is referring to, there was a panel discussion in which Rita Mae Brown, essentially everything that happens to Rita Mae Brown after this, we will understand her anger eventually, but like everywhere she went, it was to defend herself. And so everywhere she shows up, she was basically like, hey, I wanted to get into screenwriting. And so this seemed like a good way for me, like a low stakes way to get into this, to figure out like, how does screenwriting work relative to writing novels? And because, hey, shocker for everybody, they're very different things. They're not even remotely similar. And so she basically was like, I thought this would be a good way to do this. I'm sorry you didn't like it. What are you going to do? Like that's a reasonable defense.
Yeah, you can't expect her to be a martyr over this. Sorry.
Oh,
But right, no. Essentially, what happens is she sets the pace in 1973 with Ruby Fruit Jungle, and it speaks to lesbian women in a very acute way. It is something that everybody kind of identifies with in a really profound way. And then what ends up happening is everybody sort of projects their own shit on it and their expectations of it. And the moment that she does something that deviates from those externally imposed expectations, everybody lost their fucking mind.
Right. But I'll jump in to say the difference here, to the extent that there is a difference, is that when you are a gay person, there are those people are so few and far between. And so when you see the one person who's out there doing this start to deviate from who you thought they were, or start to represent something that doesn't look like you feel your power or your whatever slipping away. And so you're desperately trying to get that back. Now, you do what every abusive person does at that point, is you start to turn on them. And that's 100% what happens to Rita Mae Brown. And it's very sad because, there's the consensus from critics, mostly, again, I don't know why, I'm sure shitty newspaper editors were like, hey, give this one to the women, let them go watch it. Ha, ha, ha. And so there's a lot of female film critics who are like, I don't know, it's not very good. It just seems to perpetuate violence against women. And I don't think it actually does, to be honest. But it becomes a question of who is and who isn't a feminist? What is and what isn't feminist? And it does that while also fully ignoring the reality of the film industry, which does not give you opportunities very often, which is why both of them were like, hey, we just wanted to make a fucking movie. We want to get our foot in the door. This is kind of how you have to do it. And also, this is why a lot of people who started working in pornography would be like, they would never say that that's where they started, because they were like, I just wanted to make movies. And this is where we could.
That's like Wes Craven started in porn.
Yep. And so it's very similar to that. And it just starts to spiral out of control for her. So this particular era in feminism, I'm trying to walk a very fine line here because I don't want to be dismissive. They did achieve some good things. It was a very contentious era. It was aggressive. It was myopic in a lot of ways. And it was, I think, in some ways kind of self-defeating. And I think if people looked back on it now, a lot of them look back on it now, they would probably say, yeah, we would have done things differently. But they didn't. So what happens after this is so the movie goes into test. It tests really well with audiences. Like they go and Amy Jones has stories of sitting there with Roger Corman and watching the mostly young men in the audience sort of cheer when the women get killed. And she remembers being like, hey, Roger, is this okay? Did we just do something really bad? She kind of in her gut was like, I don't know if I like the way this feels. Because they're making something that's a little bit campy, but you don't want a group of young men cheering at women being murdered.
It's a bad look.
I mean, it's just all around. No, it doesn't. Nobody wins here. But once it comes out, the feminist movement goes really hard at Rita Mae Brown. Not anybody else, just Rita Mae Brown. And the reason for that is because she was the identifiable lesbian feminist. They didn't know who Amy Jones is. They don't give a fuck. They know who Roger Corman is. They don't care because he's not going to be on their side and he never was. And who cares? He's the enemy. So they go really hard at her. And I think it's the sense that I got, and I think that anybody would get, is all these people felt so betrayed that she had done this. And so there was a group, the Women Against Pornography or Violence in Pornography. It's such a fucking long acronym.
Yeah, you got it.
It's the Andrea Dworkin group. And so there's so many spin-offs of that. At one point, there's people distributing a flyer for a new group called Women Against Rita Mae Brown.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, no, it gets way worse. There are groups formed around, specifically around the visuals from the trailer and the poster. The poster was a big sticking point for obvious reasons.
Oh, it is a lurid, salacious spectacle.
And so there's a group that's called End Violence Now who releases a press release that says, we haven't seen the movie, but nothing can justify images of women as victims to promote a product. Now, I don't disagree with that statement. the thing that I have I stumble on a little bit is we haven't seen the movie. And I remember that same friend at the history project that I used to work with. I remember we were talking about, I was reading articles about like when Cruising came out, and the same thing happened when like Sisters came out and when Windows came out. These are pretty they're not anti-gay. There's a homophobic undercurrent to them. And she would be like, she said, oh yeah, no, we all went out, we protested the movies. And I said, well, have you seen, we were talking about Cruising specifically. I said, have you seen it? And she was like, oh no. And I said, well, how could you protest a movie you've never seen? You don't know what's actually in it. And I was being a little, I don't know, pedantically juvenile, maybe challenging. But I still think the fact remains, like, if you're going to go hard at something like this, you got to at least see it. I mean, a lot of these people did not see this movie.
I agree, because like, to give this movie a little bit of credit, yes, the characters make incredibly stupid decisions throughout the entire thing, but that's not specific to any gender. Everybody makes stupid decisions in this movie.
Oh yeah, and the men in this movie, they don't come out. They don't come across like they do in other slasher movies where they're the take charge kind of guys. They're kind of snivelly and shitty and wimpy. Yeah. Like one guy dies like sobbing.
Well, hold on to that, because we're going to get to that in just a minute. Mm-hmm. And
but also there is one other thing that I do find kind of remarkable about this movie is your average slasher movie of this age has a very identifiable format where the pool of victims gets ultimately whittled down to one surviving woman who somehow turns the tables. However, in this one, it's several of them who team up and beat the bad guy.
Yeah, two badass lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
How this movie ends. And so hold on to those thoughts. So it keeps building as this goes. And there's a group in California, a feminist lesbian group. This is all feminist lesbian groups. They start their own boycott of Rita Mae Brown, trying to get her books pulled from all the stores just because she wrote this movie.
Wow.
And so they write in a big personal letter, like a statement to the press. It says, we are personally saddened that such action should be taken against a woman who purports to be a feminist. Well, you're the ones taking it, so. However, it is perhaps more important that censure should be directed at one who cannot claim ignorance as a reason for writing such a script as Slumber Party Massacre. That is the most sanctimonious bullshit I have ever heard.
Oh my God.
But you can see where this is going. It's building in momentum to the point where everyone is just sort of like, well, I never. How could she? And it's like, okay, ladies, calm the fuck down. Yeah. It's a goddamn horror movie.
It's like what you were saying earlier, though, Brian. Is like these people clearly have no idea how movie making works, because once that writer hands over that script, it could be ripped to shreds.
Right.
There could be not a lick of anything that Rita Mae Brown wrote in that final product. But
absolutely.
Yeah, all it takes to get a screenwriter's credit by the Screenwriters Guild criteria is like a certain percentage of your creative input into the script has to be
fair, that has to be, it's like 60%.
Yeah, and so like this has both of their names on it, and so like yeah, of course but it's enough of Amy Jones's product to also get her name on it. Mm-hmm. And so like what they're really mad at is Roger Corman's rewrites, which were mostly more nudity and all whatever Jones kind of stripped out to make it just a more commercial experience.
Well, I'm going to say that's actually not true. What they're really mad at is that their feminist lesbian hero has betrayed them. That is what this is really all about. This is about
what I mean by that is they perceive the entire project as
this is grievance politics.
The product of her. Yeah. But what I'm saying is they don't realize that like there's other people putting with creative input. They just see her name on this and go, oh shit, she's responsible for all of it.
Yeah. And I don't even know that it's that intentional or well thought out. I think it's more like they see her name and they say, oh, how could she do this? How could she turn on us?
You're definitely right in that respect. This is very reactionary.
Mm-hmm. Yes, hugely. And so the Women Against Violence and Pornography, they start this letter writing campaign to the distributor, and they call the poster art clearly unacceptable and another blatant use of women's victimization to sell movies. Now, in their defense, this is the only fucking time I will ever defend this group because I think they're terrible. In their defense, the poster for this movie is pretty offensive.
When we first got our video store membership at Video Paradise in Salem, that poster was up on the wall next to Escape from the Bronx. And I remember I was like 9 when we got that. We went in there and I saw that poster and I would look at it and be like, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble if somebody sees me looking at that poster.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, so to anyone who hasn't seen it, the original poster was it's kind of what the actual poster is now. It's the 3 women on the bed, except in the original one, he has the drill coming down between his legs and he also has a knife in his hand.
Oh,
and so they were like,
I haven't seen the knife.
Well, the reason you haven't seen those is because this letter writing campaign actually kind of worked. So New World initially was like, absolutely not. We're not changing a fucking thing. And the distributor was like, I'm sorry, it's too late. We really we hear you. We respect where you're coming from. It's already been done. We can't undo this right now. But they were so successful at this that they did eventually go back and say, all right, we'll take those things out. I think since then, at least the drill has been put back.
Yeah.
The drill is back.
Yeah, that's how I knew the poster.
But so that was sort of where this thing goes. And it builds and builds. And unfortunately, what happens to Rita Mae Brown is
she writes a whole bunch of novels where a cat solves crimes.
Well, yeah, she does do that. She actually does that. She also becomes a little radicalized herself. And in a way
I don't like that. I don't like that.
It's not terrible, but it's all understandable. So she digs her heels in a little bit. Like initially she starts to be like, hey, I'll take responsibility. Like I get you guys didn't like this. Here's why I was doing it. We're doing a thing. This is the way the film industry works. We're just trying to break in. Like I get it. You didn't like it. It wasn't for you. Cool.
Also, here's a copy of Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp. Please read it.
Maybe I'd give a different book, but she tries to soft approach, and that doesn't work. And so eventually it starts to get a little more aggressive, where she's like, "Hey, I don't owe you fucking people anything, so why don't you back off?" And that also doesn't go over well. And so she just starts to get a little bit more aggressive. And so there's an interview in a newspaper called The Connection, which is a gay newspaper, 1983. And so the interviewer says, could you please address the concerns of feminists who blah, 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 think your movie is whatever. And her response is, no, they have every right to reject it and object to it. Unfortunately, they don't understand how films happen. So they lay upon my door criticisms that don't belong there. I've written a horror spoof. Very funny as it was scary. Men get killed and women get killed, and in the end, the kids get themselves out of it. Sat on a shelf for 3 years, and when Roger Corman decided to do it, he threw out the fun and accentuated the horror and added a lot of scenes I didn't have in there, but that was it. And that was her response. Like, that was sort of her last word. Was just
I feel like that's a fairly measured response.
Yeah.
Because I think she had tried to play their game. And it just was it's like
when this interviewer laid that question on her, she must have sighed so heavy that she nearly passed out.
The interview takes a very hard turn at that point because the interview is actually about a book she had just written, and
where a cat solves crimes.
Unfortunately, not when a cat solves. That will come later. Because she knew, she was like, well, what would they really like? What would make these lesbian feminists calm down? Cats that solve crimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it turns out she was right.
Yeah.
But she gets a little offensive at certain points where she's talking about the militant lesbian aesthetic, and she says stuff like, "I love what I consider feminine. If I want a real man, I'll get a real man. I don't want an imitation." And it's like, okay, girl, calm down.
Okay,
you're not helping yourself now.
Yeah.
It's sad because. Is this movie, I think relative to everything that was coming out at the time, this is actually a pretty tame movie. You don't see a lot of violence in this. Yeah. There's no sexual violence. There's no threat of sexual violence. There's a lot of weird lesbianism.
There's definitely.
And I don't mean that lesbianism is weird, but
I was going to say there's definitely like an areola quota that they had to hit.
Oh, that's Roger Corman.
Exactly. But that's the
But
thing.
there's,
Like, in terms of the actual other stuff.
There's a lot of like longing stares, like stairs down a hallway, like that kind of thing where it's just like, oh, maybe she'll come to my party.
Yeah. A lot of feet at the end. Yeah. A lot of feet at the end.
And that's sort of this is kind of what happens is like this, it doesn't kill her career. It definitely changes her career. And I think it changed how she felt about what she was doing, because I don't know if she was a lesbian feminist or not. It doesn't fucking matter. It's none of my business either way. But I think that she had tried to promote progressive ideals, and then they got thrown back in her face. And she was like, you know what? Fuck all you people, which is an instinct I fully understand.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And it's really sad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's too bad, man.
I think when you watch this movie, I think you can see bits and pieces of what this movie was trying to be. And I think what Rita Mae Brown was trying to write and the story that she was trying to tell. I just don't think the skill was there to bring that out in it. And that parody aspect, because even if you go back to the poster, although it is like gratuitous, it's a parody in and of itself, because instead of looking through the view of a set of women's legs, which is so common in movie posters, you're looking through that view of like a men's set of legs. That's different. That kind of takes a bit of a trope and inverts it. I mean, when you look beyond the legs, it's a bit, there's criticism there, but I just feel like there is this like heartbeat of a parody running through this whole thing that just never gets to breathe.
But that's the thing. I don't
100%.
I don't think it's done in the most clear way, because then it's like the image of the man can be like him flashing, him like all of these other things. Like that's the problem. It's like if they went full one way, or if they had more clear, like just clearer direction, they could have gone fully there, and I think alleviated some of this stuff, because it's also like, we are coming out of a time where like the second wave of feminism has been happening. The personal is political is such like a big thing. So I can understand why people, especially queer people, who are looking at these writers and going like, you're somebody who has touched my life and I relate with you, and therefore I feel like, I am losing a friend in a way. But it's just, it's such a messy time. And that's so much to put on somebody who's also coming up against the film industry, respectability, politics, all these other things. Like it's just, and I think it's so messy.
Those two things. You've both, I think, hit it on the head. Is that on one hand, they're working with a style of humor that is not something that a lot of people are familiar with or accustomed to. It's very subtle. It's very cheeky. It's very sort of like sly. And I don't think the audiences didn't quite get that. And so instead, what comes across is people being flippant about violence against women, which is obviously not what they were doing. But I think it would be like making a lot of really tasteless jokes about trans people right now. It's like you're not reading the room very well. Yeah. And I don't think anybody was like, what would lesbian feminists think about this? Because nobody fucking cared. But what the issue is like, violence against women was a thing they were finally gaining traction in terms of domestic violence, in terms of rape and sexual violence. And so I think to people who were really passionate about that and for really working to change that, they saw this, and specifically this thing made by women who they thought were on their side, or at least one woman who they thought was on their side. That felt like a big betrayal. And that's really what fueled this moment. And so it's like, I get that reaction. And I think if those people looked at it now, they would probably be a little softer on it, because God damn it, the movie is real fucking silly.
So silly. Yeah. Also, it is worth pointing out that as we talk about this, we are viewing this movie in a vacuum, but it is impossible to overstate precisely how many slasher movies came out in 1982. Yeah. And so at the time, the reaction was coming amid like this. Basically, they turned the blasters on this one as it came out in the midst of like dozens of very misogynistic slasher movies that were coming out at the time. So there is a sort of broader context that the public at the time was seeing this through. So it's just I can understand why people were like, okay, this is the one that went too far.
And the movie is misogynistic. I mean, there is that is also a fact. Is it more misogynistic than anything else? No, I don't think so. But it does have shades of misogyny.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So,
But But how's that? Want to talk about some fun shit now?
Let's talk about ladies getting slashed apart.
Okay.
The fun stuff.
We opened on a neighborhood in California in the morning. A newspaper headline informs us that Russ Thorne, killer of 5, has escaped from the mental hospital. The teenager Trish is awoken by screaming on the radio as a listener of radio station KDED just won a t-shirt. She gets out of bed and the movie hits the ground running by offering us some cheap nudity as she gets dressed for the day and then bags up all the toys in her room.
Oh, so I already have multiple notes. My first one was, God, you know those sheets are as stiff and scratchy as they come. Corman, you cheap asshole.
And also, who had that much time in the morning as a teenager? I wasn't packing up shit in my room and doing chores before going to school.
You get fired out of a cannon every morning. This girl is just like, well, there comes a time in every high school basketball star's life when she must put away childish things and she thoughtfully takes one off.
In most other 80s movies of the time, like it is teenager wakes up, no time to eat, grabs a Pop-Tart as mother is laying out like a 5-course Canadian breakfast in front of her.
I'm trying to steal my parents' cigarettes before I go to school. Like I'm just trying to nick one, It's like... it was a lot.
May I also say, of all of the stuffed animals and toys that she could throw away, she left that one egregious old lady thing. I don't even know what it was.
Stregonona made the cut. I didn't get it.
I think we're going to learn that she has old-fashioned tastes.
Yeah, she does.
She's going to find herself in a Boston marriage. I think is where this movie is going. There's a great moment. So her parents are like, all right, we're going away because that's how all horror movies have to start now. And her mother says, the chips are under the fridge?
I was like, under the sink.
Oh, yeah.
Under the sink.
I know.
Under the sink.
Thank you for telling me the chips are under the sink because I would never fucking think to look under the sink for a bag of chips.
And it's one of those like circular things of Pringles that's like identical to the fucking rat poison.
Yeah.
Totally.
That is a very specific thing to be like, don't worry, there's snacks under the sink by the chemicals.
Just watch out for the comet. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to keep them nice and damp. But there's nothing I love more than a damp chip.
Right?
Oh, crispy chips are overrated.
Totally.
Also, that's Pino Donaggio's score for Piranha playing on the radio.
I knew it. I knew I recognized it.
Yep. And if you missed it before, the radio lets us know that Russ Thorne is out there on the loose after having murdered 5 women in 1969.
So I think this is an interesting touch because there's a lot, in horror movies before this, there's a lot of allusions to like escaped killers and blah, 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 and all this and that. This is a little bit more specific, and it's coming at a time when, and just because I've been very much in this mode for the last couple of weeks, in California in the I'm going to say early to mid 70s, there were like a shitload of serial killers.
Oh, yeah.
Just roaming around. And so
this is the beginning of the Night Stalkers run. We got Ed Kemper.
Well, so you start with Zodiac, you go into Herbert Mullen, you go into John Lenley Fraser, you work your way up to these fucking lunatics for like 10 years. So this is a thing that's happening like in people's lifetimes, not that long ago, where they're like, it would be weird. It would be like if someone made a movie about 9/11 a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that flippant attitude toward the news is kind of present right away because the teacher is like driving in her car and she's like, "Oh, turn that shit off." Essentially, like when they're like, "The killer's out on the street," she's like, moving on.
Your president is trying to take away all of your rights, but TikTok.
Right.
Yeah. So outside, Trish's parents are getting ready to head out on vacation, maybe? It's unclear.
Doesn't matter. Chips are under the fridge. It's fine.
Trish is staying behind, and for some reason, they've tasked Mr. Contant, the weird-ass neighbor, with keeping an eye on Trish.
I hate this guy so much.
I hate this man.
He is the kind of man who makes dirty phone calls anonymously.
Yep.
He is going to grab every young woman in this movie until his death.
And he's like the perfect red herring if we didn't already know who the killer was.
That's the thing. Why did you put him in this movie? You don't need a red herring. You have already established who the killer is from the fucking moment the movie starts.
I know.
He must have been someone's cousin.
here's a question: who took the Barbie doll? Was it the killer or was it Mr. Constant?
Okay, it's Mr. Content because
Content, sorry.
he's a creep.
Yeah.
He's a creep. We're supposed to know him as a creep, which I think that's another interesting thing is there are a bunch of touches in this where you can say like this is clearly written by a woman.
Oh yeah,
Like,
she
the
has
way-
experienced a real life man exactly like
Yeah.
that.
And this is going to happen again in just a minute when we get to the school. Like, this is clearly not men writing women. This is written like men have interfered with the script substantially, but like when it comes to talking about the interaction between men and women, it's very clear whose perspective this movie is coming from.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she throws her toys out, heads to school, and then a hand reaches in from off screen and grabs a Barbie doll. So at school, two gigantic losers make a pass at the lady from the phone company as she finishes up her work. It goes
It's
nowhere.
like just two dudes. They're like walking out of school and they're like, oh, hey, check it out. It's a professional lady doing her job. Let's go harass her.
Right.
Not how the 80s. Like, I know this was not things in the 80s were maybe not quite this aggressive, but like this does speak to how comfortable men were, I don't know, just like casually and like just unashamedly harassing women who clearly aren't interested in them.
Right.
And these are high school students. Like, this is a woman just like doing her fucking job.
And like normally in this scenario, it would be like the construction worker like whistling at the person walking by. This time, she's like the person who's doing the work, and they're the ones walking by, but they're still the ones whistling.
Yeah. And he says, are all phone women this pretty? And my note says, what?
See, and I
What's a
would have
phone
loved
woman?
if we just went like full queer influence at this moment and she turned around and was like, well, actually, they're pretty fucking hot, you know?
Yeah.
And so the guy,
that'd be
so this is, and thankfully, the kind of cute friend pulls him away. And this is Neil and Jeff. That's who these two are.
I'm going to keep calling them the Peeping Tom guys because I never bothered to learn their names.
Well, I only know that their names are Neil and Jeff because I had to look it up because I was like, why do I know this one dude? And it's because I have recently watched two movies, Iced and Berserker. And these are late 80s, mid to late 80s slasher movies. Berserker is one of the gayest slasher movies I've ever seen. And Iced is not quite as gay, but it's still up there. And Neil, the guy who plays Neil, is stars in both of them, and he wrote at least one of them.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he a friend of Dorothy?
I couldn't figure that part out. I did try to look. Because, you know, every time a girl pops up on screen, I'm just like, let's see where she's been lately. And usually it's like, well, if they died in 1987, I know what they are. Wah, wah, wah. AIDS joke.
Yeah. So as they walk away, she's grabbed from inside her van and pulled in. And she struggles with an unseen assailant who eventually grabs a nearby drill and kills her with it.
This scene is very strange because it starts out being kind of humorous, and then all of a sudden it is very not humorous.
Nope.
Like, it's like she's banging on the back of the glass, and it's very much like what's Anthony Michael Hall under the table in Jake in 16 Candles. But then like they cut to inside of the van, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry I made that joke. And I just made an AIDS joke 2 seconds ago.
Right.
Well, and not to take away from that beautiful moment, but I was also very surprised by just the soundproofing that they like expected to come out of that van. It's like
It is remarkable.
It's like, bitch, that's a panel van with no interior, and she is fully getting drilled the house. Like, I mean, if you can't hear the drill and her pounding, like, what can you hear?
Right. It's very easy to be a serial killer in a world filled with people with selective hearing. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
nobody hears anything when they really need to hear something in this movie.
Oh yeah,
That's why.
No, I mean,
that's why
if you wanna be
California is rich with them.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say you get yourself a bad sound mixer if you want to get away as a killer.
Yeah.
Key one.
Yeah. So now inside the school, a bunch of girls, including Trish, play basketball as the two losers watch from the side.
I'm gonna say this is varsity basketball. These girls are about as experienced in basketball as I am.
You know, they all really like the new girl, Valerie, and none of them are very good at basketball. But being that it's a pretty jiggly scene, you can tell why Corman insisted on it being in the movie.
It's like
Yeah,
up there
there's-
with
so there's
the
a s-
tennis scene from Pieces.
Oh no! You mean the professional tennis instructor / cop?
Yeah. It's like they were going to do chess club on trampolines, but unfortunately,
my tennis
just
professor.
basketball. Yeah.
You gotta stay away from the kung fu professor, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yikes!
Yep. So this transitions to a shower scene. You would think that Jess Franco shot this one.
No, this is where we get the. This is like apropos of nothing and from off screen. You know, I think your tits are getting bigger. And then in chorus, they all go, mine? And my note says, you know, just teenage girl banter. Just locker room talk. So apparently there's a story. There's a story where like Corman kept interjecting and being like, hey, can we get more of this? Can we get more of this? To the point where they were all like, okay, Roger, come on. We're all tired of being nude in this movie, okay? Right. Because it just comes so often in the weirdest moments.
Oh, and it's always shot exactly the same. And Amy Jones basically said that, where she was like, all right, I knew what I was getting into, and I knew I was going to have to do this. And so
because she saw Carrie.
She's like, I just did it. And so the camera in this, like, obviously can't get both tits and ass in the shot. And so it's got that Jess Franco, like, wandering camera thing where it's like, we're going to start up here, and then she's going to turn around, and I'm going to kind of pan down, and then we're going to just give you a nice long shot of her washing her butt.
That shot is so awkward. It is so incredibly awkward when it just lingers and, like, just pans down. And I'm like, what is this? Why is this happening to me?
And then they do it again later.
Yeah.
And then they do it again later, identically. Yeah.
And then they're just supposed to have casual conversation. You know what I mean?
They do. I think your tits are getting bigger.
How awkward would it have been to be on that set?
And
what a
they're
nightmare.
supposed to be high schoolers.
But the weird thing is like in a lot of other scenes, they do come across as sort of like, I mean, not high schoolers because they're all like 32 years old, but like they do come across as like friendly, you know, kind of like teenage-ish girls. And I do like that they make the girls kind of as horny as the boys. Because like, hey, that's the fucking reality, whether Christians want to believe it or not. But like, when you're 17 years old, all you want to do is fuck everybody all the time. And that's what's happening. And yet, I think what's so strange is that in all of this talk about how Rita Mae Brown is a terrible feminist and how she betrayed everybody, at no point is anybody, and I guess, you know, this was already alluded to, but like at no point was anybody like, why is nobody upset with everybody else who's like, why are these women having to do this shit just to be in a fucking movie? Because that's what they're saying. It's like, we didn't want to like do a bunch of weird nude scenes that are so inappropriate under the like in the context. Like, we just want to be in movies. And everyone was like, yeah, well, I guess it's Rita Mae Brown's fault, that fucking turncoat.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like she invented it.
So now Trish is having a party at her house and is inviting all the girls. And Trish and Valerie lock eyes in the shower.
Trish has a crush on Valerie.
And then she makes sure to stop by her stall to compliment her basketball player.
This is the best moment. This is the best moment of my week. Not just of the movie, but
when this happened, I was like, this is definitely left over from Rita Mae Brown's script.
But also, who is directing this? Because the weird sexual tension between Trish and Valerie in this and every other fucking scene in this movie is insane.
And but it is also the thing that really got me about this. And when we were watching it in the Discord the other night, we were kind of talking about this. It is completely unexplored.
But it goes through the entire movie. I remember one time I was at dinner, like a work thing, a coworker, and it's a very long story. But I remember I was leaving with a different coworker, and she was like, "What is with you two?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "That was the most tense meal I have ever been at." And I was like, "From me?" And she was like, "From both of you." And neither of us had any awareness. And I was just like, that's what's happening in this moment. Is they're just like, oh, maybe you want to invite her to your party. Yeah. Hey, I'm over here. Are you inviting her to your party? The girl you're staring at?
Yeah.
Lasciviously?
Yeah. So in the locker room, they all talk shit about Valerie. who overhears them and quietly sees herself out.
But
one of them,
the shit talking is like her eyeliner is so perfect. But that's also, it's like, it gets a little sapphic because it's like, oh, she's so hot and she and she like really works at it and you can tell. And that's a negative thing.
She drinks too much milk.
Yeah.
What?
It's the 80s. You all drink too much milk. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
None of you should be drinking milk.
Trying to make that happen.
And then there's like one girl, the dialogue is so bizarre. There's one girl who like fully deadpan is like, hey, Trish, remind me, next time I have the ball, don't throw it to Jackie.
Right.
Scene. This is what we're working with. It's like, this is the anti-feminist movement you're all worried about?
Right. Comments
like
like,
lesbian
I don't
romance.
like people that I have to get to know. Like, what?
Right. So now as they all leave school, Russ Thorne watches them from the phone company van. They don't notice that the phone company lady's body is in the garbage.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Also,
Yeah.
I will say, everything we just saw is fully ripped off from Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Johnny said
Whole
that.
thing.
Yeah, totally.
Whole thing.
Yep.
Carrie
so
with
now
whole
we
shots. Yeah. Sorry.
We've got Brinky Stevens.
Thank you.
Yes. She goes back into the school to get a book she left behind, just like one of the many elements in this movie taken from Halloween. On the way out, she finds that all the doors are locked and comes under attack by Thorne, who tries to kill her with a very phallic drill.
Now, look, again, if you're a feminist coming at this movie, you're like, well, would you look at that? I mean, Carol Clover wrote an entire book about this. Would you look at this thing? And it's like, yeah, it is so obviously phallic. Like,
That's the entire
joke.
fucking point.
Like, it is hilariously giant. What do you do? This is like a fucking post hole digger. Like, this is not a weapon.
I will say though, at the end, what takes it down? A yonic symbol. Like this circular handheld saw with teeth that's being wielded, the long range weapon versus the short range weapon.
Well, then it runs out of juice though, because it comes unplugged.
Right, yeah.
And then she has to just kill him with a machete.
She hits him with a machete.
Well, exactly.
Which is much more
because
dickish.
Women don't have full agency. No, sorry.
But
By
also,
the logic
like,
of the movie.
let's be real.
Yeah.
He's not very good at it. He doesn't know how to work his tool. It's clunky. It's clumsy. He's shit.
Tale as old
No,
as
and
time.
then eventually, like the kind of rules of how this drill works get a little fucking murky when he starts like slashing necks with it and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, the second one. It's a guitar and a drill. I mean,
so
who
much better.
gives a shit?
Yeah,
It's out the
that's the
window.
Cadillac version of the idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So everything gets
Yeah.
solved.
So now, by a crime-solving cat.
Yeah.
See, that's what's missing from this movie.
Right. That's what it is. When we finally get to Hollywood, we're gonna adapt one of her cat stories.
Yeah.
I can still-
equal the
somebody already
playing
did.
Male full frontal crime solving cat, and yeah, just work the drill shit out.
Right. So yeah, he merely hurts her arm, chases her around the school, losing her. She manages to hide, but it's not long before the blood trail leads him right to her. And he drills through the door she's hiding behind and gets her.
And she's got a hell of a horror movie scream.
It's pretty great.
I mean, this is a woman, she built her entire career is basically this character 275 more times. So
Right.
yeah, she's got a good scream.
Yep. So meanwhile, Trisha's boyfriend drops her off at home and she heads in. Elsewhere in town,
Is this
Diane,
the
maybe?
guy on the motorcycle?
Yes.
Because I saw this and I was like, is she dating Gene Shalit? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
It's like
There's a lot of who is
Gallagher gives her a ride home.
Oh no, right? Because here's my next comment. Elsewhere in town, Diane, maybe? I can't tell these girls
Who
apart.
fucking knows? You've got Gallagher giving one of these ladies a ride home. Doesn't matter who, really. Probably not Trish, if you know what I mean. I did like. There's a moment right before this happens, though, that he kills the whatever her name is, and he comes running out of the school. And this is another way that, like, maybe because of when this was written, it feels different. But like, we never see throughout the 80s. We never see horror villains doing shit like this, like fleeing, like scurrying away from a scene. And that is kind of what he does. He like very sort of like sheepishly runs out of the school and jumps in the van and drives away. And I was like, oh, you don't see that a lot. I like that.
It's true. Humanizes him a little bit, doesn't it?
A little bit. But they were also very worried about humanizing him too much in this. That's why he doesn't talk most of it.
Oh.
Because they didn't want him to be a sympathetic character.
And then they just pulled the drain plug on the talking at the end.
Oh, I know.
They said, you say everything, you little boy.
Yeah. So she walks home and is approached from behind by who we think is the killer, but it's just her boyfriend who she manages to judo throw on the ground.
Jesus Christ. The number of fucking times people are creeping out of the alley and grabbing each other in this movie.
He probably
is
will
this
kill.
what happens in
It's
California?
his MO, let's be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to get together with her, but she can't because she's going to the girls only slumber party. That's not going to stop him though. Meanwhile, the basketball coach, who doesn't look much older than the high school students, goes home.
Love this moment so much.
But is shocked when a drill goes through her door, but it's just some contractor lady installing a new peephole at the exact same time she's opening the door.
Just a couple of lesbians having a little bit of banter at the door.
Right?
Yeah, but one of these lesbians is not very good at her job because the way that
Because she leaves the fucking thing hanging out of the door.
How did she even put it in the
slams
door?
it in. It's like she high-fived it in after she broke, and when the drill came through on the other side of the door, it was like taking out bits of wood with it. It's like you fucked up the nice side of the front door for that?
But then they show another shot of it, and that side of the peephole is just sort of hanging out of the door.
And we don't even see her like tinkering with it. It's like she did it with her mind.
Nary a
But look,
tinker.
I don't care because I love these two lesbians so much.
Same.
You get the gym teacher and this handy woman, and they are as dykey as it gets, and I am 100% on board.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Because also, how does the contractor just have a key to your house while you're not home?
Well, she's got shelves to build, Tyler.
Right.
Look, it was the 70s, and relationships were different, and people were fluid. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Just cool it.
So Trish ends a phone call abruptly when she hears a sound in her house and goes to check it out. But
We could stay on that moment for like another 20 minutes. I'd be fine. It takes 65 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, but she gets up to check it out, but gets distracted and starts playing piano instead. It's another fake out, as for some reason, it turns out that weird Mr. Content is wandering around her house.
Yeah, you know what that was? That was Jones being like, hey, we got to stretch this thing out. Does anybody have any skills or anything? And she was like, well, I know how to play the piano.
Right.
It's very much like, it's Friday the 13th part, is it 3? Where they were like, hey, does anybody have any special skills? And the one guy was like, I can walk on my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that.
It's very strange.
It's 100%
Chapter 1.
that.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
No.
So now there's more fake out tension at the coach's house. She also goes to check out a phantom sound and opens a closet door to find a jump scare cat trapped inside.
Yeah, just a regular old detective cat.
I would have believed it more if it was Mr. Content, because that we also didn't underline how much of a fucking creep he was for just being in her home and then being like,
everybody's home.
don't tell everyone about my little check-in. Like,
Oh, right. Eventually he's like, oh, I won't tell your mom and dad about the weed if you don't tell them that I was sneaking around your house.
Yeah, except
like
100% you need to tell them that he's sneaking around your house.
Yeah.
That is creepy.
It's like, oh my God, go upstairs and check your underwear drawer.
That's
right
what I
now.
was about to say. Yeah, you have a panty sniffing neighbor. He's either wearing them or sniffing them. One of the two. And yeah, and do you, but not like that.
Not
It's
like-
it is such a bizarre character because you're like, what is your purpose
What
in
is
this film?
his point?
You're
Well, he's the
not a
red
red
herring.
herring.
but we don't
Also,
need that.
Yeah,
well, maybe we do because this movie is 76 minutes long.
Yeah.
But we already know.
but we've already seen the
him.
killer's face.
We've seen the face. We've seen the fit. The red and
We've
the
seen
blue.
him kill someone.
So now, by night, those two dorky losers from before are walking their bikes through the neighborhood, planning to crash the slumber party. Valerie, meanwhile, watches the girls arrive at Trish's from her house, which is right nearby, just like in Halloween.
Do you know what the two dudes in this movie remind me of? They are all Howard from My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
They're all like goofy, silly dudes who are like, yuck, 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 and yada, da, 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 da.
Oh, right. Because like every Friday the 13th up to a certain point has that character also. Yeah.
The Halloween 6 cops
It's everybody.
with like the clown fart music playing behind them. Yeah.
That's when it's taken to its natural conclusion.
Yeah, right.
And that's when it becomes high art, capital A art. Yeah.
That's right.
So now the girls now show up at Trisha's house. They've got some beers and some Maui Wowie, which is the most Cheech and Chong weed of the era.
Yep.
Mr. Content sees himself
every
out.
time I hear Maui Wowie, I don't know if anybody's a South Park fan, but it always reminds me of, Maui Wowie, Zowie. Yeah, Stan, I know about all of them.
It's to me, it's always just weed for people who don't smoke weed.
True.
It's that tie stick.
It's weed for people who haven't smoked weed since 1984.
Exactly. Like that's what they think all weed is. They're like, oh yeah, I know weed, Maui Wowie, you know.
Yeah, it was like my boss when I had a job in high school. Like he was cool, you know?
Yes.
Yep. It's just all he did was smoke mid. Anyway, Valerie makes a huge pitcher of Kool-Aid for her and her sister, who either is supposed to be 13 or 18. It's really hard to tell from scene to scene.
She's making a pitcher of Kool-Aid with like 1.5 pounds of sugar. Like a fucking 8-year-old is making this thing. Like,
And she didn't stir it real well either.
no.
Oh no, all the sweet shit's on the bottom.
And her
it's gonna
little
be
sister, I don't know if this is too fringe, but she's giving gorgeous ladies of wrestling energy. Like there's a character in the original Glow called Tammy Jones, like this infantilized adult in like a onesie with a fucking lollipop. That's the little sister.
She is probably I don't know what this says about me, but Courtney is my favorite character in the movie.
She is a baffling character.
She is so weird.
She joins a band
strange.
later. I love her.
Yeah.
She's Peppermint
now,
Patty. She's giving lesbian energy. Like she is the surrogate lesbian character. We were saying this earlier today when we were rewatching.
Yeah.
Don't you dare, Sully, my sweet peanuts.
She wears a polo shirt and gets a makeover from her high femme sister. Come on.
And then she's like, ew, kissing boys? Gross.
Yeah, ew, tongue, whatever. And then she joins a fucking
Also, have you
all-girl
seen the
band.
handy woman from next door?
Right.
Yeah.
And she really wants to go over to that slumber party to do exactly what those other boys are doing and just watch them from the window.
Dude, if
she's
she
like,
had
yeah, but,
been
like, what
in
do
the
they do
third
there?
movie, she would be writing Rebel Girl. She would be like fully starting a movement. Yeah.
I was about to say, and that girl grew up to be Kathleen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, who's again? I mean, it's full circle because, like, she lesbian? Sometimes.
Very dad rock.
I mean,
Yep,
you know,
so-
bi people do exist. We see them.
I'm not gonna.
We hear them.
I'm not gonna.
Oh, yes, we do.
Tell Kathleen Hanna how to be.
Yeah, the bi erasure. Too much.
So now at Trisha's, the girls eat snacks and smoke the thinnest joint ever rolled on film. I'm constantly just distracted by that thing. There's some more fake out tension as a glass coffee pot left on the stove breaks due to the heat. Trish
Oh, this is also where one of them says, "It's not how big your mouth is; it's what's in it that counts." And my note just says, "Yuck."
Yep.
Yep. Trish picks up the burning hot, broken from the heat coffee pot with her bare hands. Yeah. To expect it. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then they're all scared again as Diane peeks in at them through the window. Now, over at Valerie's house, she and her sister read magazines about Brooke Shields' frizzy hair.
Yeah, what is this? Why are they talking shit about Brooke Shields?
Right?
I know.
Hasn't she been through enough?
She has been through enough in 1982.
I know.
God
right?
damn it.
So much shade.
And Andre Agassi wasn't even on the table yet. So
Oh God, we all forgot about that. It all goes downhill for poor Brooke Shields.
it really does.
Yes. So yeah, Valerie goes out to the garage to see what it is. Courtney sneaks up to her room and rifles through her shit until she pulls out a copy of Playgirl featuring Stallone on the cover.
The
Now,
Italian stallion.
This feels like a Roger Corman note to me because I am fully on board with the fact that teenage boys and teenage girls are equally interested in sex. I doubt very much that a lot of teenage girls are keeping Playgirl under their bed.
But I love the fantasy that she just moved into this house and she already has a porn stash.
But she's like, this is my priority. This
Exactly.
is the thing I needed to bring with me first.
Yeah, as we were talking about the movie like the other night, we were like, was Stallone naked in Playgirl? That couldn't have possibly happened.
No, but he was in a movie called
I think it was the
what's it
Italian
called?
stallion. He was,
Is that what it's
Yes.
called?
I think
Yeah,
so.
it's called The Italian Stallion.
Not
Yeah,
the
so he's
son
in
of
that.
Jackie. He would never go naked.
Wait, which one?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. I have a low-key obsession with Jackie Stallone. Did you know she reads butts?
The magazine?
No.
No, butts.
No.
Like literal actual butts.
She actually like reads
psychically?
fortunes from butts. She has like a whole
Like a palm reader.
Yeah. She has a website dedicated to it, and there's like scans of like celebrity butts on it. It's a whole rabbit hole. Yeah.
Have you never heard of this?
Does she
Rumpology or something like that. Yeah.
does she have to like touch the butt, or can she just read it by looking at it?
I don't know. It was early internet days, man. Jackie Stallone.
I would imagine that you, the butt haver, would have to sort of like grab the cheeks and do the goatsy thing in order for her to see it.
Describe it to her.
Dark.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all.
No, but she's looking directly at it. You know.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's like next to your butt.
Well, I know exactly what part of this episode is going to be in the fucking in the reels now.
And I spent a significant amount of time writing about pornography, and I am put off by this.
Well, maybe that's why Sylvester didn't go full nude in Playgirl, because then Jackie would have been able to read his fortune, and that just would have been close to home.
Full stallion.
Should have come to him with bad omens.
Exactly. She's like,
son, you have to listen to me.
Your life crack is not looking good. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He's like, I'll do everything but show my butt.
Yeah.
Look, billionaire slumber party remake. Right here. This is just, it's Stallone getting his butt read at a party.
By his mother.
While Mr. Conant keeps sneaking into the house. And Mr. Conant is played by Paul Lind.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. Center.
Where were we?
Center now.
Oh yeah.
All right.
The porno.
Yeah, right.
Playgirl.
Right. Valerie, meanwhile, puts all the garbage back in the cans and sets it right. There's more noisy fake outs and those weird swings in the yard.
Yeah.
I thought they were like lawn
A
mowers.
chairlift.
I love
I thought they were. We thought they were a chairlift.
I had no idea.
Yep. Over at Trish's, the two losers from school sneak up on the window, watch the girls undress as they get into their negligees and shit.
You know, like you do at a slumber party. Just stripping down in front of each other casually.
Listen, they've seen each other naked like every day. It's no big deal.
But you know what? Thank
like
God
6
they
times
put
a
on these
day.
outfits, because then that becomes their most identifiable features moving forward, and I know who everyone is.
This is true.
Right.
Yeah,
It was the outfit change we needed.
it happened.
Oh, I still don't. I still do not. I am still just like, I know who two people in this movie are, and they are both the big lesbians.
The only reason I've come to be able to distinguish each of them is because I wrote this. Like, and I actually went out of my way to be like, okay, that's Kim, that's Diane, that's Trish, that's Valerie, and just remember it.
Right.
Because the first time I watched it, I was like, who the fuck is this now? So now Valerie busts her sister looking at the smut while Trish and the girls order a disgusting pizza with olives and mushrooms on it.
No anchovies.
No anchovies. Diane goes out to the garage to get some logs to build a fire with. The spooky synth informs us that someone else is there holding a meat cleaver.
What is this? What world does this exist in? Where they're like, everybody's going outside every 5 minutes. And it's like, and in this cinematic universe of the Slumber Party Massacre, there's a man creeping around in every dark corner of every unoccupied driveway.
Listen, I kind of get the feeling that may be the reality for a lot of women.
I mean, it definitely sounds like it. It was like, well, it's either the Zodiac or Mr. Contant, or whatever the fuck his name is.
So yeah, Diane spots a snail, which grosses her out. Mr. Contant swoops in with a cleaver and kills it. Dude's
Look,
just
am I
out-
going to say that this is maybe an anti-feminist moment? Is this a lesbian moment? Maybe. I hope
Dude's just
so.
out there sneaking around like a normal, innocent man.
It's just normal men.
With
Yep,
a weapon.
Too bad for him.
Yeah.
Yep. Too bad for him. As soon as Diane walks away, Thorne sneaks up behind him and drills him in the fucking neck.
And honestly, we are all safer for it.
So
I
much.
mean,
The world
yeah.
is, I know, nothing of value was lost. Awesome sound effect, by the way.
Yeah.
I know. I was like,
So
that's
gross.
one for the culture. Thank you.
Yep. The girls then read horoscopes. Trish goes to close the window, spots Thorne sneaking around outside. She looks away and then looks back to find the bloody Barbie doll from before. They assume that it's the Peeping Tom guys. Unsure if Diane closed the garage door. They then go back outside to check and narrowly miss Thorne hiding out there.
Look, you lock the door one time. That's all you got to do.
And I was going to say, I will say, when they caught Thorne outside that shot where he's kind of Michael Myersing about in the light blue light, it's That's probably one of the most like effective little spooky shots I found in the whole movie. And the thing is, if they had a better idea of how to pace things and like lay it out, they could have actually like worked it a little bit better. But like, yeah, that was a moment where I was like, oh shit, yeah, like that's kind of a creepy little image, like where he's like just out for a second, tucks back in the darkness.
There's another one that's coming up that I thought was pretty effective as well. So it's not long from here. There's a couple moments in this where I'm like, oh, you can do it. You don't seem to want to, but you can.
Something's blocking you.
Yeah. Oh. So now Valerie looks at Trish's house longingly.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. And then busts her sister reading Playgirl. There's some joke. Okay, so what is the fucking joke with the banana peel?
I don't know. I don't like anything that's happening.
I was hoping somebody here would know what that fucking joke was.
What's the joke? What does she say?
She's like busted her for like reading the Playgirl, and then like she produces like a banana peel and she holds it up to Courtney with like a disapproving look, and then she's like, "Who, me?" And like there's a joke here, but I have no idea what it is.
I mean, could it be the idea of like masturbating with fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, that's where my mind goes.
Oh no! Oh,
that's
Tyler.
where my mind goes there, and that's what I see. I hate everything about this moment. First of all, she's eating this giant lollipop like it's a fucking 1930s movie.
That was the gorgeous ladies of wrestling moment for me.
I was gonna say, listen, listeners, if you need like an image in your mind of what this lollipop looks like, imagine the recent memes of JD Vance as like an apple cheek baby with like a fucking pinwheel hat and this giant like round lollipop. It's one of those, and it is the most infantilizing, weird thing in this scene. It's strange.
The fact that what is implied is that she's fucking herself with a banana that has been removed from the peel. I would like to add that's also in this scene, and then they get into an argument about how she told their mother about how she was something with other boys, and she's like, you were beating off boys in the 5th grade. Again, my note just says ew.
Yeah. And then
I don't know what's happening.
I hate the persistence of that joke because it's not a joke. It is implied
that she
was really doing it.
Yeah, because then Valerie's like, I'm just joking, I made that up. But then Courtney's like, no, you didn't. Which is to suggest that, yes, she was doing that in the 5th grade.
Oh my
and hey,
God.
I guess do what you got to do. But look, I don't want to know about it. I am a man in my middle-aged years. I shouldn't. I'm on a list now because of this.
Yep. So now Diane then calls her boyfriend while the other girls listen in. It's a horrible phone call. Because it's a horror movie, the lights then go out, so they have to go out to the garage again to check the fuse box. So out they go, navigating around Chekhov's swimming pool. When they get there, they find that the fuses are fine, except that several of them have been removed. Call the fucking cops right now.
No, you leave. You leave the house. You leave. You take yourself away.
Right. And the Peeping Tom guys sneak up on them, and one of them gets hit in the face for his trouble.
And he deserved it.
Right. There's more noises at Valerie's house, so she gets back up to check. I swear, this is the longest suspense windup in the world for a movie that barely qualifies as a feature-length film.
And calling it a suspenseful moment is very generous.
I will say though,
now Valerie has to go and see what that sound is. Now Trish has to go see what that sound is.
Look, get a Ring doorbell and everybody solves the problem.
The amount of restraint, though, everybody is going outside. No one's going in that pool. And given what movie this is, I'm surprised. And I kind of relate to him.
I gotta wonder if
drew the
Corman
line
saw that
somewhere.
pool and was like, listen, Amy, I think you should use that pool.
Yeah.
And she was like, God damn it, how much more?
That's where it was. That was the line where she was like, Roger, no.
Yeah.
Go home. I'm calling your wife. Go home.
Exactly. It's like you can't tell, though, but there is jizz in the pool. It's floating around, but like that's it.
Well, they did destroy the pool for good. So.
I wonder how.
Yeah. So the garbage cans are knocked over again, and she gets jumped by Courtney with a knife as payback for the hand job remark.
Yeah, it's a hilarious prank where she almost stabs her sister to death, like an episode of Rescue 911.
Right?
God.
Outside of Trish's house, Diane's stupid boyfriend waits in his car. She has him put it in the garage and then fails to lock the garage door behind her. Valerie.
I wonder,
Courtney
is there
do their
any
hair.
other movie where there's a car and they go to get in the car in the garage and then they die? Nah, it doesn't matter.
No, maybe something from 1978, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I gotta tell you what, Diane, definitely no Annie.
No, God, no.
Definitely can't even
So,
cross
yeah.
her eyes like that when she dies.
So Valerie and Courtney do their hair and makeup. The subject comes up that she was invited to the party but didn't go, and the idea comes up to crash the party. So Trish and the girls make strawberry daiquiris and obsess over some recent baseball game that we're going to be hearing an awful lot about.
Hell yeah.
While Diane and her stupid boyfriend make out in his car and he tries to lure her away so they can fuck at his house.
Oh my God, you guys, is this the greatest movie ever made?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also love the idea that the lesbian surrogate sister is like, what, there are hot girls next door? Let's go.
She's just like, what do you think they're doing right now? Do you think maybe they changed their clothes
Yeah,
already?
exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think that other one's wearing?
I've got my
What
best
do you-
polo
with
shirt
the
on.
black girl, what's she
Yeah.
wearing?
She's like, let me get my tuxedo vest.
She's like little Roger Corman.
She is like, do they know there's a pool out back?
Hell yeah.
So she shuts him down and leaves him alone in the garage. Then she goes in to tell everybody that she's splitting to kick it. It seems like everybody hates him. When she goes back and gets in his car, his head falls off of his neck. And just like in Halloween, Thorne attacks her in the car. Shot of the dangling drill bit between his legs. Inside, they all drink disgusting daiquiris, and the pizza guy shows up.
What I like about Diane's death is that Diane's transgression and a reason for her death is basically because she's bailing on her friends
Right.
to go fuck this awful guy.
Yep. So yeah, now the girls call their coach to obsess over the baseball again. Say homered in the sixth, apparently. He's Ron Say played fucking third base for the Dodgers.
Oh, nobody cares about that.
Why are you calling your coach? Isn't she
They
an adult
got
with things
special-
to do?
Why do they have her number? Is
Yeah.
my question.
I guess phone books used to be a thing.
And she answers
like-
it just to be like, oh, of
Get out
course,
of here.
yes.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was terrified to run into my teachers outside of school.
Oh God.
It was
times that
so strange.
now the one time that I ran into one of my teachers out on the street, she was incredibly fucking drunk, and that was such a such a world
Which
shift
teacher
for me.
was this? Which teacher?
Yeah.
What was the teacher? Who was it?
She was the fuck was her name? She was my math teacher in 8th grade.
We grew up in a very, very small town. So the fact that like it's like 2,500 people.
Oh yeah, we were a village, and then we became a town for a minute, and then we went back to being a village because the population went down again. So I hear you.
Yeah, no, it was like a year. It was like a year later. It was me and my friends were skating around Portsmouth at night, and she came out of one of the restaurants with like a bunch of people and was like very, very drunk, and we locked eyes, and she immediately like turned and went the other way, and everybody was like, "Oh, I guess we're leaving now."
Yeah.
Well, then you should have asked her about the local ball scores, because obviously this is the relationship that we have to
a
strive
real
for.
hot topic.
I couldn't believe it though, because also it's, well, I mean, I guess I can't believe it in context of the movie, but it's like, well, this woman lives, eats, and breathes sports, so of course she's going to answer our call on a Friday night. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
especially since the handy woman has already clearly left.
Well, yeah, she got eyebrows deep at 5 p.m. I mean, she's good. I learned that from a lesbian friend of mine. I used to work theater and film production, and shout out to Kat.
Love it. I love it. When they
hey,
open the,
is she interested in joining what I think is a social group? Because if so, I've got a QR code I'll send you.
Oh, please do. Please do.
yeah, when they open the door to pay the pizza guy, they find him standing there dead with his eyes drilled out. He collapses into the house, and everybody loses their GD minds.
Yep.
So now the girls
Well,
gonna
no,
call
what they say is, so he rings the doorbell. Well, before all of this, with the sister across the street, I can't remember anybody's fucking name. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The weird lollipop sister. She goes, "Do you think they're doing something, funky over there?"
Yeah.
Hey now.
Yeah.
Courtney.
But then the pizza guy rings the doorbell, they say, "What's the damage?" And he goes, 6 so far. That's an awesome line.
That was
That's a great
good.
line. Yeah. So the girls go to call the cops, but Thorne cuts the phone line before they can get the details out. The coach calls Valerie, to have her go over and check.
See, now I don't like any of this.
No.
This is getting too intimate.
But then tells her not to, instead opting to go over herself to check it out instead of doing the normal thing and calling the cops.
Like, what are you, a fucking block parent? Like, what are you doing?
I know.
Even if you were.
And everybody's just like, you should go look. Hey, there's a sound. You should go look. I'm just like, it takes so much to get me off the fucking couch in the middle of in the daytime.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to serial kill me, you're going to have to do it on the couch because that's the only way you're getting me.
Yeah, you're going to have to get through 3 doors and I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now back at the murder house, the peeping Tom guys try and make a plan to do something to help, but they're kind of wusses.
Well, also, speaking of homosexuality, these 2 dudes.
They share a very intimate moment.
It looks like they're about to kiss.
Also, can I want to ask one question?
Touch each other's dick, you know?
Oh, you're just look. You know, you're figuring stuff out. Whatever.
Okay,
you get
I'm
one of
gonna
those
ask.
finger traps. Anyway, sorry.
I was drinking water when you said that, you bitch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask a question that is completely apropos of nothing, and having nothing to do with this line of thought. What the fuck is the deal with putting a steak on a black guy?
Okay, that's the most 80s thing you can come up with.
What is that? Because I've seen that elsewhere. I saw that in the Brady Bunch and shit when Buddy Hinton punches Peter, I think.
I remember somebody
They put
trying
a
to
st- they
explain
put a
about
steak
like
in his face.
the proteins or something. It's in the same way that if you put like a tea bag on like something with pink eye, the tannins do some work. But
So the idea was that it was cold. And it was
right,
like the coldest thing you had in the refrigerator. And then I think over time that sort of morphs into like, but there's also iron in it. No, the reality is putting a steak on your face is fucking stupid and it's not doing anything.
if you quickly Google it, it tells you not to because it can transfer bacteria and cause an infection.
Yeah, and maybe the idea was that it's like meat, so that it, like because it's meat on meat, it's one's not harder than the other, so you can like push it in. And I'm stretching to try to justify things for dead people.
Now all we know is you're going to get pink eye, and everybody's going to be thinking people are like farting on your pillow.
Hell yeah!
What I love is the number of times I have watched both Johnny and Tyler Googling things that come up.
Yep. So yeah, they're gonna make a run for it and get help. So they go out into the night. One of them, whatever his name is, gets to the garage and is surprised by Diane's dead body. Then he gets drilled through. Valerie watches TV, watching Joe Dante's Hollywood Boulevard. The other peeping Tom guy, whatever his name is, gets to Valerie's house, but she doesn't hear him knocking over the TV. Thorne approaches him.
Which, like, okay, what is she watching, and why is it so loud that
she's
can't
watching
hear someone
Joe
knocking
Dante's
at the
Hollywood
door?
Boulevard, apparently at top fucking volume.
With surround fucking sound. Because I know that the speaker in whatever TV she was watching in was shit. And you would be able to tell the difference between what was coming out of that little TV and what was pounding on the door feet away from you.
The speakers are literally on the bottom of the screen, and there are 2 of them, and they're very small.
Yep. So now finally Valerie gets up to check, but he's no longer there. He's too busy rolling around in the yard with Thorne, who grabs the knife and stabs him many, many times.
He never even kissed that other guy. It's like that scene in Elephant where they're like, well, we're going to go shoot up the school. You want to shower together first? Right. And everyone's like, what? Why is this happening?
Just another gay tragedy.
Then he drags the body back to the garage, throws him in the trunk of a car with the other bodies. The trunk space in that car is fucking nuts.
I was surprised.
And he's counting like 1, 2, 3, 4.
And at first I was like, why is he counting? And then I realized, they're trying to set it up that he realizes that one of them is not there. But like, dude, you should not need to count. You haven't killed that many people.
Right? 6 so far.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
and one of them was the phone lady.
Right. So now in Trish's house, the girls keep a vigil by the fireplace. Jackie gets hungry, decides why not eat the pizza.
Yeah, these ladies are all way too casual about the dead guy in the middle of the floor.
I love this joke, though.
At the same time,
this was the moment. Like, this scene is what I feel like this movie wanted to be. And if the rest of the movie could be as good as that pizza scene, it would be great.
I think if they had done that, what we would have ended up with was student bodies.
You know what?
Student bodies is terrible, though.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Is like that movie's a little extra, you know,
with the aubergine.
Except for the part where he kills the girl with the eggplant.
I think the other side of it is, and like the other part of that conversation is just that it took a long time for people to figure out how to do horror and comedy well. And it and it takes even longer than for the public to know how to take it. Because like in terms of like parody, it's like Spaceballs, like that's palatable parody at the time. But for somebody to be like, I don't know, it's just there's a certain level of nuance that I don't think could have been communicated, and horror comedy just the rules kind of weren't in place just yet. Like we weren't in a post Evil Dead world ish.
Yeah.
I mean, even post 80s, if you want to look at it that way, I think horror comedy's come a long way.
That's insane. It's insane that that's even the case because these things go together perfectly. Like they live next to each other. That's the whole fucking thing. It's like
to our podcast.
Anyway.
So they eat the pizza while the surviving Peeping Tom guy drags himself to Trish's house, sobbing on the porch.
And again, like we're back in it's like when we get inside the van at the beginning where I'm like, oh, this was funny. Oh, now it's not funny anymore.
It's a little raw.
This is just real dark.
Yeah, they go to check it out, but Thorne is also right there. They might have been able to help him, but Thorne gets there first and drills him to death. Yeah. Back at Valerie's house, she sees her sister heading over to Trish's, follows after her. She knocks on the front door, but nobody answers because they're currently under siege. Jackie runs to open the door, but it's not Valerie. It's Thorne, who somehow slashes her throat with the drill.
Look, it doesn't matter.
It does. Yeah, I know. I should.
It'll make no damn sense.
And also, Jackie should have seen this coming. Girl, don't answer the door at this point.
Right? Oh, shit. That's the name of the movie. You just said the thing.
Ah.
Yeah. Valerie runs to the back door instead, finds all the blood, and is surprised by her sister again. Yeah. Now, Valerie goes back to the front door, finding it open this time, and goes in. And Trish and Kim hear her looking for them, but they don't go to her. They hide out in the bedroom, huddled together. Then Thorne sneaks into the window behind them, sneaking up on them all unawares.
Okay, this is the moment that I was like, this is the one scene in the movie
this one a lot.
where everything seems to come together. The lighting is working really well. Everyone's doing their thing. And I don't know if it's scary. It's a compelling moment, though.
Yeah. It's the way he looks, the way that like the blood is on his face and shit. Like it's just composed perfectly.
Because he has a real, like we haven't talked anything about him because he's kind of forgettable for the most part.
Yeah.
But he has a very deadpan face where like he doesn't emote at all.
Yeah.
And unfortunately they blow it at the end big time with him. But like he's a little creepy in this moment.
Yeah. He's a little schmeff schmold. Like it's a little Jeff Goldblum, but the dollar
I feel like
store with
Goldblum
red eyeliner.
He would have gone bigger though.
Yeah. In interviews that I read with him, he was like, he was a Strasbourg guy. And so he applied one of the Lee Strasberg methods of animalism to it, and it was essentially, I think that he just liked Elsa Lanchester in Bride of Frankenstein because all of his movements are that, because he specifically says like he was trying to act like be like a bird essentially. And that's why his movements are all really sharp like that.
You know who's really successful at that is Elsa Lanchester. You know who's not? This guy.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. So he creaks on the floor and they turn to find him right there. Thorne attacks and they throw all the shit they can find at him, including a copy of Rita Mae Brown's Ruby Fruit Jungle.
Oh, did they?
Oh shit!
No,
I love that.
Her other book is in this scene as well. She's the one that had just come out.
Yep. They're about to escape when he sneaks up on Kim with her own knife and lays her low.
And she just stands there and takes it.
This is the one because he stabs her and then he does this weird like turn with her and kind of like gently lays her down. I love that move. Yeah. Trish manages to get away though.
Once in a while they get it right.
Yeah, I know. Valerie's still outside sneaking around. Thorne takes a minute to admire himself in the mirror, all bloody and shit. And then Val finds her sister laying in the backyard again, leaving us to think that she's dead, but it's another stupid fake out.
Okay, this girl needs to go home. Stop doing this.
Yeah, right, she's doing pranks now.
Yeah. So Thorne stalks all the rooms, checking a closet, nearly finding Trish hiding there, but she fakes him out. Down in the kitchen, Val and Courtney check the fridge twice, but being distracted, they miss Kim's dead body.
This is the weirdest, most like vaudevillian shit in the whole movie. Where they're
This
like,
is 100% like Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman.
Absolutely.
I mean, quite literally, it is a moment from Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman.
It's like, how did you not feel the pressure of the body weight on the door, which ultimately is what kind of pushes it open on the third open?
Oh no, I know. She closes it twice, and it's like
And it's funny you say that, because this is also where we get a lot of like weird sneaking music, where it's like dun 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 dun. dun.
So understandably, they freak out when she finally like falls out of the fridge dead, narrowly avoiding Thorne as he comes down the stairs. Valerie hides in the basement. Courtney hides under a sofa, maybe.
Yeah.
Unable to find her, Thorne starts to hide the bodies and set up his next trap, hiding under a blanket in the living room.
And he looks so pleased with himself, and he's got like a Harpo Marx look on his face, where he's like pulling the thing up over his head.
Put the thing over him, and he's like, "This is gonna be so fucking great."
Yes.
Right. Yeah, he's like, I didn't eat anything today. I am squinty. No one's gonna see me.
And now Shavasana.
Yep. Trish comes out of hiding as the coach arrives and lets herself in, announcing more stats about the baseball game they're all talking about. She goes to check the blanket, reveals Thorne hiding there, and he attacks, but she fends him off with a fire poker. Valerie looks for a weapon in the basement, finds a circular saw, which she fires up and runs upstairs with to help the coach. Unfortunately for her, it's not a cordless drill.
It's another silly gag.
And might I say, she is luxuriating in that basement.
Yeah.
There is sense of urgency. It's like 5 p.m. She's in the department store. She's got hours to look around. Like, your sister is upstairs hiding from a killer, and you're just perusing the weapons in the basement.
She's like,
she's like,
a screw? Yeah. Maybe it's a screw. No, a screw's not good.
Yeah.
How about this thing? A screwdriver. You know what? No.
Yeah, she's the Little Mermaid. She's got gizmos and fucking what's-its everywhere.
And she's picking up the most ridiculous shit too, because it's like, girl, you cannot kill anybody with that. Why are you even looking at it?
Yeah. Right. So the coach is holding her own in the meantime, basically fighting him back with the poker. Courtney trips Thorne as he approaches, and he falls over, getting beaten real bad in the process. Trish then runs up and stabs him.
With the pristine machete that they keep on their wall, apparently.
Oh yeah, no, this was So this is Trish. Valerie still has
like a bread knife or something.
Yeah, it's like a knife that she got in the kitchen.
And
so this was the this was the original end of the movie.
Yeah.
But like I said, Corman liked what he was seeing, and he threw another $20,000 at her to sort of give us a real finale. Thorne gets up after being stabbed, and once again does the slash thing across the coach's stomach. Now with Trish and Courtney in his sights, he takes a minute to menace them with some talking, a detail I wish they'd left out.
Right?
And
side note, Trish comes from the Shelley Duvall school of holding knives. Like, she is... She is about to crumble with that thing in her wrist.
It's true.
Right.
I think part of his talking is part of the reasons it doesn't work.
It's like he's spent this entire movie being like a fucking force, and then when he finally opens his mouth, he sounds like Pamela Voorhees.
And he does a noise with every move. He announces everything he does with a sound. He goes, ah, and it's like, you've been swinging at people and killing them flawlessly, I guess, for a little while now, but now it's like every gesture has a noise.
It's all clunky and weird, and he's just like, you want it, you love it, and I'm like, what are you doing?
And
what's happening?
Why do we need to establish a motivation at this point in the movie? You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's because the guy who's playing Russ Thorne, he had like built out this whole backstory in his head about who his character was and what his motivation was. And I think he was probably just like, oh, hey, I've got an idea. What if I work some of that in at the end? And she was like, well, you are a man, so I guess I have to say yes.
Actually, she was like, well, the movie currently runs at 74 minutes, so why not?
Yeah.
But then here comes Valerie out of the basement with a huge machete she found down there on the wall.
I fucking love the end of this movie so much.
I do too. I'm glad that they dragged it out into the fucking backyard because it's a kick-ass ending. She chases Thorne into the backyard. They fight by the pool. She swings the machete and chops the drill bit off, rendering the weapon useless in a very symbolic scene.
A little on the nose.
Sorry.
Then she chops his hand off, slashes him across the stomach, causing him to fall into the pool, presumably dead. But because this is a slasher movie in 1982, we get one last scare. Courtney comes out to find her sister there, and Thorne climbs out of the pool, one hand down. He attacks Valerie. They struggle by the pool, but here comes Trish again with the knife to distract him. And he leaps onto Valerie, but she's ready with the machete, which runs him through and kills him for good.
And he pulls himself out of the pool with the hand that just had the hand chopped off.
Yeah, no, you gotta just
The stump
you gotta set
grab.
it aside. You gotta set it aside.
No, take this hand, child. It's stronger.
Oh no.
So the three ladies are now left there by the pool as sirens arrive.
Yeah,
Roll
now that-
credits.
With all the men out of the way, Trish and Valerie can finally be together.
Do it.
Yeah.
Well, this episode is officially twice as long as the movie itself.
Which is not a hard feat to do, honestly.
No, that's true. That's true.
Nope. Our shit runs long anyways. And also, we had to take a really long aside to talk about Jackie Stallone and her peculiar abilities.
And I'm sorry
Also,
about
yeah.
that.
Oh,
I'm not.
because that was funny as hell.
Okay, good. As long as I'm not derailing someone else's podcast, I'm fine. We run long as well, so I'm used to it.
No. This brings us to our usual concluding question.
So yeah, we typically end a lot of these with we wonder, how does this movie hold up now? And I'm gonna go first. Not well. It is weird as hell. It's hilarious in ways that it shouldn't be. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's for some reason 70 minutes long.
It's the thing is in the fullness of time, this movie is utterly fucking ridiculous. And it is the sort of thing that I like when I first saw this, I was like 13 and I was mostly bored by it.
I think what I said to you before we started recording, what I said to you was, this is a strange movie because it is almost like 100% like boilerplate slasher movie from 1982. And at the same time, it has so many weird things thrown into it where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Are they gay? What's happening?
Right. Because I did not have this perspective when I was like 13 years old. I was just looking for another violent slasher movie. And this one, as far as violent slasher movies go, is just, I'd seen a million of these ones that are just kind of faceless and formulaic. But now, many years later, this movie, I recognize what I'm looking at. And it's chock full of strange bullshit that just checks a lot of boxes for me. I like it a lot more than I did back then. I think it's okay, but like the weirdness about it makes it so much more interesting to me. Like I won't go out of my way to watch this movie in the future, but if it's the sort of thing where it's like, it's there, it's on the table, it's looking me in the face, it's just a matter of popping it into the Blu-ray player, I'll fucking watch it again for sure. Yeah.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it does maybe benefit from the hour and 15-minute runtime.
The thing about though that I think that is really interesting about that is it is still like packed with action.
Absolutely.
You know, it does not. There's a couple of moments where it's like, all right, enough with the looking at the what was that noise shit? Like, let's move this along. But like it moves along at a pretty good clip. So yeah, it's one of those movies that like after it's over, I'm like, oh shit, I got time to watch something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could watch Slumber Party Massacre too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I will say my favorite
but-
part about this movie is that it sets us up for Slumber Party Massacre 2, which is a good time for good time gals.
I mean, you could watch Slumber Party Massacre 2, or you could literally watch any other movie. And I'm not sure where I fall.
That is exactly how I found how you actually talked me into X-Rays, because I watched Deathstalker that night, which I believe Deathstalker runs about 75 minutes long. It's another one of those like super short TNA Corman movies. And I was like, well, shit, like what should I watch? And you're like, listen.
Yep.
so
that's
how that happens. So yeah, it is a very convenient movie in many ways. certainly entertaining. And it's got a fascinating as hell interesting with a lot of really unfortunate fucking details. But
Yeah.
you know,
If you're into like production history, this is a great movie to
Absolutely.
oh, if you're listening to
dive
this
into.
podcast, you have put up with us really giving you the rundown on production history. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, I am a gay historian, and I very rarely get to bust that information out. So,
yeah, you're welcome.
yeah.
Yeah. Johnny Tyler, thank you so much for joining us, you guys. This was this was a very, very funny episode to record.
It was a pleasure.
I love it when you say
guys-
Johnny Tyler. It sounds like Bonnie Tyler. That's great. But you're welcome. We're glad we can we were able to spend this time with you guys, and glad that we weren't too distracting. We ramble and have so much fun on our show that I'm always just like, okay, well, I hope whoever wants us on their show's ready for that energy.
Right. We're gonna have to have you guys back. So
I always assume that, like, when people are like, hey, you guys want to come on our podcast? I assume they mean him and not me, because I'm like, you don't want what I bring to the party.
That's the thing. They like, I'm always just like, oh, Tyler's the more likable one, so people go for him. But so when he was like, oh yeah, bring me the axe, was like wondering about us being on, I'm like, oh, you? And he's like, no, both of us. It's like, oh, okay.
For the record, I have invited both of you all the times.
Oh,
But this is the first time.
no, it wasn't you guys. I just think in general, like, because when we get slammed like by like mean reviewers, they're always like, Johnny's awful. Tyler's great though.
Yeah. No, I understand. Trust me. I understand.
you have been called out by name a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about your podcast. Plug your business.
Yeah. We do a podcast every week called That's Spooky. It's a little bit of everything. True crime, ghost stories, cryptids.
It's everything that makes you go, ooh, that's spooky. And we cover usually 2 topics per episode. We've been doing it since 2018, and we're on the Morbid Network.
We've got to make that paper. Come on.
We were like one of their first little babies on there. So, that's pretty much what we do. And then on Fridays, we do our weird news episodes on that spooky feed called Spooky Gay Bullshit. I almost fumbled my words there because we also have mini episodes on our Patreon called Spooky Snacks. It's just too many S's for my little gay mouth to speak. But aside from slip slopping all over the names, that's pretty much what we do. So it's like freaky stuff on Wednesdays, kind of like the depths of humanity, and then like the weird news on Friday, and it's spooky gay bullshit. So it's like anything spooky related to the queer community, or just like absolute bullshit, weird animal news, etc. You know,
And there's a lot of bullshit in the world these days. I
A
tell
lot
you
of
the
stories of people killing or getting killed by animals. You know,
I love that.
And hey, to quote the great Buddy Cole, such a lot of fuss over a couple extra S's.
we're going to see him actually in a few months. It's amazing. Scott Thompson's doing the Buddy Cole comedy show. He's taking it on force. So go see it if it's in your town. We are also going to be stepping out into the horror movie world relatively soon. We just experienced an apartment flood that led us to have to move in January. But fun fact, the night before that was happening, we were filming content for what will be a horror movie YouTube channel called Night People. So right now, we've been talking about that on the show. So if you want to hear us talk about, we're going to be doing recaps of horror movies, kind of like a one a week. We'll be starting that up soon. Now that we're into our new space and not everything's wet anymore.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, all of that. Check it out. We love these guys, and you should too.
Yep.
That said, Dave,
Yes.
what's next?
Well, as you have said, next week on 99-Cent Rental, we are going to be watching Story of Ricky, what I understand to be an extremely violent cat-free Hong Kong action film.
And we've got a fucking fantastic guest for it. I'm so excited for this episode. I cannot possibly explain.
I think this is our the only first-time guest this year. I think everybody else that we're having on is a returning guest.
I believe so, yeah.
No, there might be one. Anyway, that's what we're doing next week. Week after that, Bring Me the Axe is going to come back. We are going to be watching Lamberto Bava's wild, disgusting, and wildly disgusting movie, Macabre.
Oh boy, I can't fucking wait. Yeah. So be here next week. I know a lot of you guys skipped 99-Cent Rental. This fucking movie is insane. I cannot wait. Please be there. Don't miss it. And be back in 2 as we take on Macabre.
Yeah, lady's gonna have sex with a severed head a bunch of times. It's great.